he a big guy, or was it just because he was so hopped up,
just not feeling pain? Yeah. And that was one to remember. Like, oh my God, like we're talking minutes. San Diego Police, it was established in 1984 with just a few handlers, military handlers, very strong dog knowledge. I remember like Border Patrol came, San Diego Police Department came, they had the canine there, saw the bite, and as soon as I saw any move I made, it was to be in canine. That's where I learned the most is gangs. Just proper follow-ups, proper documentation, proper use of force. First dog, Nero. Or 25 apprehensions with him. Everything you could ask for in a dog. Foot pursuit, catching him, and it was just the fight of both of our lives. Make sure your dog's ready. You're going to get that call of a lifetime, and you don't want to be the guy that says, I don't know if I can do this.
6 months of community service.
Probation. Yeah, I always joke, hey, your first crime's free in California.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He spent 16 plus years in law enforcement, including patrol officer, gang suppression team officer, canine handler, and patrol sergeant. He's been involved in the canine unit for more than a decade, where he currently serves as the training sergeant responsible for overseeing a team of 40 working dogs. I didn't realize San Diego had that many. Oversees selection, procurement of green dogs, training handler academies, training for integrated canine SWAT team, de-escalation instructor for the DA's office, court-recognized expert for use of force, police dog handling, less than lethal munitions, and animal behavior. Writes canine policies and legislation for the entire state of California. He has been in multiple officer-involved shootings and canine deployments, which we'll get into. He currently handles a dual-purpose dog, cross-trained in explosive detection. He's the owner of Echelon K9. Ladies and gents, welcome to the stage, Zach, and I'm going to let you pronounce your last name because I don't want to fuck it up.
Pfannenstiel.
I guess for the way that it looks and the way that it sounds, it pretty well lines up. But thanks for coming, man. I appreciate you taking the time, and I know you're busy out there and you had to fly in, but canine handler stories and cop stories are ones that we get a lot of requests on, and ones that I certainly enjoy interviewing because it's such a combination of so many things that I love to talk about. But I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Lucky to be here.
One quick kind of neat note is that apparently we met like 10 years ago. I was teaching a class at a canine conference that he sat in on, and it's weird how the world works. This many years later, here we sit talking about all the experiences that you've had in between that time. So that's pretty awesome. What's the last full book that you've read?
I've read all the Jocko books, read Goggins books. I've read your book. Read a couple of your books. Meaning of Life, I think is the last recent one that I've read.
Yeah. Was there
Viktor Frankl.
Was there a takeaway that you got from it?
Just the stimulus and the reaction. I think just with everything going on in the world, when he just talks about stimulus or reaction, you choose your reaction to whatever that stimulus might be that's out there telling you.
It's it falls in line with a lot of the Stoic stuff, I think, which has been pretty popular lately, which I like a lot of that stuff. But what's something that you wish you were better at?
I would say I'd go with communication. I think would be the biggest thing, because I think just in my position, my spot, just whether it be through business or through the department, I think a clear, effective communicator often it's going to succeed at what they do.
Do you find that you're better personally or professionally at communicating? Is one better than the other?
I enjoy conversations on a personal level, just to where it's like just a little, I'd say just more conversations, just personal level.
Yeah.
Professionals, like speaking to people is fun. I like the instruction and stuff like that. I like teaching, obviously. But I like to get to know people on a personal level and kind of like just help fix situations, fix problems, stuff like that.
Yeah. I guess I was digging more towards like being married or anything like that. Like, do you find that you get into trouble by being a shitty communicator as a partner that way? But
I see. Yes and no. I think it's the active listening that'll take on working. I'm hearing what you're saying, but am I actively listening to what you're saying?
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Oh, I'm tracking. If time travel was possible, where and when would you go and why?
Oh man, I'd like to go back to Bible times just to kind of see.
During Jesus's.
Yeah, just to see what that was like.
Yeah. Are you a man of faith?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
a specific denomination, or is it
Christian.
I mean, within Christianity, like
I'll go non-denominational
yeah,
Christian.
My daughter actually wanted me to ask you this. My guess is there may not be one, but do you have a favorite cereal? Classic daughter question.
Yeah, is it a cheat meal?
Sure.
I'd go with like Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
The whole box.
Yeah.
With 2% milk.
Yeah. I'm more of a whole milk or even like half heavy cream and whole milk.
Yeah, that's the cheat meal though.
Yeah. What is your EDC off duty?
Off duty, the Glock 48.
Oh, okay. That's the single stack.
Single stack, yeah.
Similar to the 43, but just a little longer frame.
Yes.
Do you rock any sights or anything like that?
For my on duty, I do. For my on duty, it's a Glock 45, which is a chambered to 9mm.
Yeah.
And then a Triticon RCR.
Oh, okay.
And then I have it direct mounted through a company out here, Vulcan Works.
Oh, okay.
So direct mounted there. Lightning Strike mag pads just for the +2. So it's 19+1.
Oh, wow.
For on duty.
Off duty, do you have any type of sights or just
no
light or anything?
Yep, straight up G48.
Sure. Do you? I'm curious the carry ammo duty versus off duty. Do you guys get good ammo to carry, or
it's the federal hollow
HST?
Point? Yeah, and it's just it's the same for both on and off duty.
Yeah, because some departments make their guys carry fucking ball ammo, which to me is kind of crazy.
No, on and off duty is the same ammo.
Yeah, that's good. With your Trigicon, did it take you a significant amount of time to go from iron sights to picking that up and being better or at least as good with it?
Not a significant amount of time, but it does take time. Just that small cant as you bring it up.
Yeah.
But I obviously we carry rifles and stuff like that, so even just working the red dot with that, at least having the both eyes open wasn't a new concept.
Yeah. I guess the inconsistency of not having that on your personal or on your carry gun off duty, is there any hiccup of going back and forth?
Generally, no, because off duty, I mean, I'm only pulling it out to protect my family.
Yeah.
So it's not as coming out as near as often as like my on duty, whether through practice, whether it's a use of force situation or something like that.
Yeah.
And plus, I just want the off duty to be as small as humanly possible.
Yeah.
So I'll wear it in sweatpants, riding a bike, that type of thing, board shorts in San Diego.
Yeah.
So just the smallest off duty I can.
Yeah. No, that makes good sense. Morning routine wise, I know shift work sometimes can make it difficult, but on normal days, normal hours, what time do you get up and what do the first 3 hours look like?
I'll get up between like 5 and 6. No hard start, just between 5 and 6 whenever I get up naturally. Pretty much it's breakfast, Bible, and workout.
What's the workout look like?
I hit there's a gym down in San Diego. It's like a bodybuilding, powerlifting gym. I enjoy going to there. But mainly, I used to compete in powerlifting, so there's a little bit of that in there, but those days are gone, so it's more of like a bodybuilding routine, just to simply be able to work the dog, roll around with the dog, and just stay generally fit.
Yeah.
No fat cops.
Yeah. That's another thing that's surprising, but, sometimes, some of the cops you see, I'm like, dude, what if you had to fucking chase a dude, how are you making that happen?
Well, nowadays, we're all hurting for police, so it's just... Most agencies are sometimes getting rid of the PFT entirely or just completely modifying it entirely.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I will say I'm equally surprised at how many active duty law enforcement don't grapple, a lot. I know you said you don't do much of it, but man, to me, like I train a fair bit, but it's like if I was doing that for a living, I mean, fuck, to me that's as important as, or maybe even more important than shooting. Just like to me, the amount of times that you've pulled your gun and actually used it is what, 3?
Yeah, yes.
How many times have you gone hands on with somebody?
Yeah, a lot,
like
way more.
Hundreds, probably.
Hundreds, yeah.
So it's like, to me, that's fucking nuts.
Right.
It's such an important component of policing, especially nowadays when there's cameras and even pulling your gun can get you in fucking trouble and whatever. But it's like when I watch a lot of these interactions and these hands-on kind of case studies, it's just it's frustrating to see so many mistakes being made that are super basic. I mean, I've been in the position where there's so many other things that you have to practice that trying to add something like that is a big commitment and you have to carve time somewhere. But
right.
to me, that's one of those things where it would just be non-negotiable for me, I think. But
yeah, and I think with police is you have the regional training, which is just once every 18 months. You go to a week-long update course, more or less, and you get some defensive tactics in there. And I think some people just think it's enough. Yeah. And it's not.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you're not training at least a few days a week, it's not enough. But
yeah.
Do you have a favorite quote?
Favorite quote? I'm pretty fluid with quotes as far as things go. I would say we suffer more in imagination than in reality, which is a quote by Seneca. I think that plays well right now in my life.
And falls in line with the Stoic and the Meaning of Life book takeaway, right?
Yeah. That's where I tend to gravitate more towards quotes like that, books like that, something I can get out of, and then just.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is the Daily Stoic. I don't know if you've seen that. It's just it's a quote every day that it's like 3 minutes of reading. Which is kind of convenient. It's more my speed, I think.
Bathroom reading. Yeah.
Where are you originally from?
I was born in Lompoc, which is right outside of Santa Barbara. Oh, okay. And then we eventually moved to San Diego. My sister, my mom, and my dad. Yeah. My dad retired. He was a federal correctional officer, so lived a majority of my life in San Diego. Then we moved to Colorado, and then Tennessee, and then came back to San Diego. So probably over 30 years in San Diego.
Yeah. What part of your childhood was Colorado and Tennessee? Years, like grade years? Why?
9 and 10 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we.
And then Tennessee right after that?
Tennessee right after that. Bartlett, which is right outside of Memphis, and then came back to San Diego.
Were both of those corrections jobs that your dad took?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In terms of that kind of bouncing around, I mean, was it tough as a kid going through that, or do you find that it was interesting enough to be like productive and positive?
Interesting enough. I think it was just kind of the cost of doing business. Yeah. My dad's goal was move around, do what you needed to do. But then once we got in high school, he didn't want to move, and that's why we were back to San Diego.
Yeah. What part of San Diego did you live when you were in high school?
Santee.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
A lot of shit going on in Santee. I lived in Lakeside when I was there for a number of years, and then ended up in Ramona after that. But just as time went on, I got further and further out. But there's a lot of biker gang shit in Santee, right?
Yeah,
like a lot of Hells Angels.
Yeah,
shit.
all the East County.
Yeah. Guys, real quick, I've recently launched Patreon for the all-inclusive mic drop experience. This goes above and beyond just ad-free. Yes, you are getting ad-free episodes, but you're getting before and after bonus footage of myself and the guest in studio, in many instances outside of the studio, doing jiu-jitsu, dog stuff, car, motorcycle, recovery, fitness, lifestyle, all kinds of different things. All the different things that I have going on are included in that Patreon page. We're releasing content multiple times a day, every single day. And I want to offer that to you guys. Just go to my Patreon page. The link is in every description or any platform that I'm on, and come enjoy that experience with me. That content is for you guys. It's what you want to see. It's about you. It's about what world you want to peek into in terms of all the different things that I have my hands in, and we're bringing that to you guys just for you. And I want to take one quick second to just say thank you to everybody who already has signed up. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do for you. So thank you to you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in there. What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. Spending time in East County, going through high school, and then did you play any sports growing up?
Yeah, baseball and football.
Okay.
Played baseball all my life. My dad was the coach. He was, I think I don't remember a time that he wasn't coaching, except until I got to high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, played baseball all my life, and football.
Yeah. Good enough to where it was something that you wanted to pursue beyond high school, or was it just more of a hobby?
So that's initially was the plan, is like, hey, let's do this college thing. But I'm not a school person. I did not like high school. Wasn't the greatest in high school as far as getting in trouble and stuff. So then I ended up doing my senior year, my junior year homeschool, just to quickly get out. It was kind of the let's just get out, let's get working full time, that type of thing.
Yeah. Were there any significant events during your childhood, good or bad, that shaped who you are and or what made you decide to want to be a police officer?
Yeah, when I was, 5 or 6, the little school I went to out in Lemon Grove, Spring Valley area, I remember a canine demonstration, the typical. But I remember like Border Patrol came, San Diego Police Department came, San Diego Sheriff came, and they were just ripping on the border, on the ATVs. They had the canine there, saw the bite. And as soon as I saw a canine demonstration with a bite, I'm like, I'm doing that.
Oh,
so,
shit.
yeah. So it's like 5 or 6. It was just, I'm going to train my personal dog, my pet dogs.
Yeah.
Any move I made, it was to be in canine.
Yeah.
Hence the San Diego Police Department, just because we have one of the biggest canine units in the nation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw this little demo and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm making that a living.
Yeah. Well, so I guess fast forward to high school then, was that, even though you played baseball at a higher level, were you still eyeballing or planning on becoming a police officer and doing that? Or? Yeah,
I was a San Diego Sheriff cadet. I did the cadet program and Explorer program. I did that. First, I got in trouble a little bit. So then it wasn't until around 16, 17 that I was like, hey, let's straighten it out, do the cadet program, the Explorer program, did all that, and just enjoyed that. So then pretty much from an early age, from early on, it was very clean, just no drug use, didn't want to get in trouble, no alcohol, didn't want to do any of that. So I'm definitely thankful for that program for sure.
Yeah.
And then ultimately applied to San Diego Police Department. You could take the test at 20 instead of 20 and a half. So I'm like, I'll use it as a practice test, and I'll get hired with the San Diego Sheriff Department. But they ended up hiring me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with the first one.
Damn, that's cool.
And I wanted San Diego PD just because, like I said, the canine unit.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work for the big city.
Yeah.
So it just ended up working out. And
so even back then, they had a canine department that was pretty good sized.
Yeah, San Diego Police, it was established in 1984, with just a few handlers, military handlers, very strong dog knowledge guys that started it. Eventually grew to 50. Oh, wow. 50 dogs. We still want to get up to 50. It's just a slow roll with, retirements, injuries, stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, at the time they had quite a few dogs.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw the 1984 on the coin. That's cool.
Yeah.
The trouble that you got into, do you mind telling us what that was as a kid?
Yeah, I would say it's maybe not the typical, but it just the fighting, the ditching school a lot, and then stealing at Costco. I stole at Costco. I just stole things, and then eventually it was, hey, you know what? This is not the life to lead whatsoever. Just stupid high school stuff. Yeah. So nothing serious, but just vandalizing, just dumb stuff.
Being a teenager.
Yeah.
Is there any soft place in your heart for teenagers stealing shit now? Like do you see yourself in that way at all? Like, does that play a role in how you do your job?
100%. I think it's just seeing what I see now, even just with my early years as a police officer, just have more compassion, I think is the biggest thing. Yeah. Is people make mistakes. It's okay that they do. Are they learning from them? Can we have a conversation about it? And I think that's why I kind of like those leadership quotes, the leadership books, just helping people. Yeah. Even as just a police officer, like, hey, I want to get to canine. Okay, here's how you do it. And I'll take a personal vested interest in them. Yeah. Or, hey, I want to try to get to gangs or newer officers. Hey, how do I do this or how do I do that? All the way just to the contacts with the public. Yeah. Or it's saying, hey, this is how you need to stop making those mistakes. Yeah. And just having that compassion. So just seeing that, definitely my heart goes out to it.
Yeah. The from a discretion standpoint, I know it depends on the department, but I'm curious, is there a significant amount of officer discretion for San Diego, at least in terms of what you can take into account and let slide versus not, or is it pretty black and white with body cams and policy where it's a lot of it's out of your hands?
No, the thing, there's discretion. Officer, you have the spirit of the law, letter of the law. Officers can choose, what happens. At the end of the day, I mean, they want, big boys, big girls making decisions, understanding people are people. what I just try to teach the newer officers is like, okay, if this person's legitimately in a financial hardship or something to that effect, maybe they could just get an education of the law and maybe a second chance or something like that. Or did you do something heinous where it leads to something different? Okay, then maybe that's where the letter of the law, applies, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So there's still discretion. Body cameras actually, to me, aren't negative.
Yeah.
It stops a lot of complaints just as a sergeant where it's, oh, he did this, he did that. Okay, here's what the camera's saying. Are you sure?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think if there's nothing to hide, they're a great tool, Yeah. And I can see that almost from if you are super against them, why are you so against them?
Right. As long as the tough part is the use of force stuff is understanding it's a camera. You don't have the hindsight. You have the hindsight. You don't have what the officer saw, the perspective he saw, that type of thing.
Yeah, or the context.
Exactly.
Because it's one angle.
Yes.
There's a bunch of other ones. And I mean that's the thing. Because the same thing in combat. It's like something happens and there's 900 different fucking perspectives on what happened, and it can vary pretty fucking significantly.
Yeah.
And it's not even that guys are lying; it's that was their experience. So
you got a body camera that has a fish eye and it picks up all of this, right? Has a little bit of IR to it, and you can kind of see. Versus the officer didn't have that. Plus, he has a radio in his ear, so it's as long as they take it within context, whether it be a canine deployment or a use of force situation, then I think we're good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so you get picked up kind of unexpectedly. I assume that you don't need at that time you didn't need a college degree, or did you need an associate's, or how?
Nope, just a high school diploma.
Yeah,
high school diploma. I had my associates. I just recently finished my bachelor's and getting my master's now, but just the lowest level you need. I think you need a GED.
Oh wow. Yeah. All right, so you get picked up. You went right to the academy, I take it?
Yes, sir. Yeah, right to the academy. It's a 6-month-long academy. It's not living. It's up at the Miramar College.
Oh, okay. What year was that?
2008.
Okay. So 08, and what was the academy like, expectation versus reality?
A lot of learning, obviously. You have like learning domains and stuff like that, elements of the crime, scenario-based, things of that nature, driving, the shooting, just the typical immersion of law enforcement. And then just remember, that's the basics of law enforcement, because then after that, you have a 4-week FTO phase where you ride with a field training officer and kind of learn that way.
And how close to training day was that?
Training day's a total. Yeah. That's a movie.
Yeah,
that's
I love
a movie.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's an entertaining movie. But how frustrating is it as a cop, like seeing shit like that? Because a lot of people, it's like, well, that must be how it is.
Yeah, I think it's more funny, especially like the parties, the barbecues, where it's like, oh, did you do that one time? It's like, no, that's not even close to what happens, Yeah,
that's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Is there a cop movie show series out there from your perspective that gets it right the most? Into watch. Yes, it's a movie, but just the general bond that you have riding with somebody. Yeah. End of watch. Yeah. I couldn't even give you the names who were in it. Yeah. But it's End of Watch, and it's just they essentially come up on a cartel house, and they end up working the house, and it's a bigger thing than the initial vehicle stop that they did. But just the overall camaraderie in it, just the banter they have back and forth. Especially working the gang unit. You have K9, just like a specialized, tight-knit unit. Obviously, from your experiences, that movie kind of nailed that portion of it for sure. Oh, that's cool. In the San Diego Academy, how in-depth, or do they go in-depth at all with kind of the different specialties, career path-wise? Do they get into much of that, or is it more just like, here's the basics and you can figure shit out later?
We do go into depth, because even now my job now is to go to the academy to teach the new guys tactical searching, whether it be tactical applications for patrol, how to search with building, how to search in a building with a K9, how to search vehicles, hot stops, things of that nature with K9. Yeah. Narcotics will go in and they'll teach them about narcotics, things of that nature. The crime lab teaches them how to dust latent prints. So I think overall it's a regional academy, so all Southern California agencies down there go to the same academy, so that way we're all on the same page. Yeah. But I think they get into it a little bit, and then it's their job as well as their FTO job and supervisor's job to kind of like push them, hey, you have a really good knack at traffic or narcotics or gangs or what have you, and start developing them as officers. Yeah. So it is
playing to strengths and kind of almost a recruiting of different guys for different fields.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think that the academy is adequate in terms of preparing officers from, guys coming in off the street to getting into the FTO phase? I mean, do you think there's anything about it that's lacking?
One thing I would add, if I was chief for a day, because the academy is very good. We actually have a very good academy. There's no complaints there. I've had, like I said, I teach across the United States, and they know about our academies. They know about California West Coast law enforcement. Typically, we are ahead in that aspect. Something that I would add, though, is like a FTO X phase. I think nowadays where there's de-escalation, there's walk away when you can, talk when you can, versus, also teach these new guys how to be proactive. Get that gun out of the car, whether it be through a fourth waiver, a search, or whatever it might be. Hit the house, do a warrant, telephonic warrant, whatever type of thing you want to do, and just kind of start developing yourself that way. I would do 2 weeks of something proactive and less report writing. Hey, this person got their house broken into. Well, it's going to be the trainee's job to take that new report. It's a very entry-level report. They need to take that. Yeah. Hey, this person's at the hospital. They want to do a report. That type of thing. That's typically what the trainees are getting into. I'd like to see a little bit more proactivity, and I would like to see at least just know how to be a law enforcement officer just for a few weeks. So at least it's not just bogged down with reports the whole time for their FTO phase. Yeah,
that makes good sense. For your path in particular, when you went to your FTO phase, what was your first FTO like?
My first FTO, it was just a little more laid back. He was definitely a little more laid back. It was he's got a lot to teach me. I don't know anything. Yes, every person you did defensive tactics with, it's always going to be safe. And then now you're contacting somebody who it may not be safe. So they have a lot on their hands as far as watching these baby cops go and teaching them and telling them how to write the report. I call it the Helen Keller, where it's like they have to come up behind you. They got to do everything with you. I mean, you got to do it, but through them. Yeah. So definitely a slower pace. Second phase, kind of the same thing, but the speed kicked up a little bit. And then the third and fourth phase, they want to see you out by yourself doing your own thing, and they're just there as a resource.
Yeah. So the 4 phases, that's a 6-month process?
4 phase, 4 weeks, so about a month each. You can get rephased. I did not, fortunately. But yeah, if it's kind of like, hey, you just need more exposure, they'll rephase you and you'll get more phase. They want to make sure you're putting out the best candidate out there for our city.
Yeah. As an FTO, have you had to do that a number of times?
No, I was never an FTO. Canine FTO, as far as that's because we do an FTO phase with our canine unit. But as far as the teaching aspect, all my stuff has been in canine.
Oh, okay. So being an FTO is an actual position where they just do it back to back to back?
Yeah, you are a patrol officer and you are an field training officer as a collateral duty to where somebody comes out of the academy, hey, you're taking Zach, you're taking Mike, whatever it's going to be, and you'll have him for a month. He's on first phase.
Yeah.
So then they teach you everything, how to log on, how to put your gear in the car, all that stuff.
That's got to take kind of a special breed of cop to even do that, I imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I don't think I would want to do that. But is that kind of regarded as a less than desirable gig?
It is less than desirable. They've had to do pay increases and stuff like that. So just to help out, it's a lot of work, and then you're responsible for somebody that doesn't know anything, and it's just like trainee after trainee after trainee. So it could be a lot, but I think you give the gift of teaching, and people appreciate that.
Yeah, to me, I think it's the starting over, because I run into that with dogs, especially the personal protection dogs, because there's so much that goes into them. And it's like you're taking a dog that isn't a complete house dog and turning them into a house dog, which is the worst part of dog ownership, and so it's like you spend months taking this dog where he's fucking shit up in your house, and and you're kind of baby stepping your way to where, okay, now this dog's fucking super solid, he's good to go, okay, turn him over to this family, and now I'm starting all over. It's just it's just like fucking Christ,
That's exactly what it is. And that's what wears on people, just a constant wear.
Yeah, I can imagine. As you guys know, sleep is a huge component to recovery and really all aspects in life, and it's something that a lot of us have struggled with, for a lot of our lives, frankly. As you know, I've been a big proponent of Beam, which is a hot cocoa that you drink before you go to sleep, and it's helped tremendously in terms of hours of sleep maintained as well as the quality of sleep. Today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, which is their science-backed hot cocoa for sleep, and it's got no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. As you know, other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess and just make you feel crappy, but Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and apigenin, also melatonin, to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/micdrop, all caps, all one word, and use code MicDrop, all one word, all caps, at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/micdrop and use code MicDrop for up to 40% off. All right, so you go through all of your FTO and I guess, on-the-job training, 4-month process. Did you go straight into traffic from there, or did you?
No, you once you exit patrol, the field training phase, they'll assign you your duty station, if you will. You go to the division. I worked Western Division, which is like Ocean Beach, North Park area, and you pretty much just on your own
As a patrol
officer, just straight up patrol officer, and then. From there, that's when you learn the most. That's when you legitimately learn the most. I would say your first year of patrol off of FTO phase.
Yeah.
You don't have somebody to sit there hey, what would I do with this? You have to figure it out yourself, and then you're gonna have to find a way to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of sink or swim.
Do you remember your first being on your own? Your first kind of oh shit moment call wise, where it's like, holy fuck, this is the real deal. On your own?
Not the first, but one of the first. I just remember it was at the time it was, there was this park there that all the homeless had to be kicked out. They're drinking, doing drugs, all that stuff. And then people go and obviously walk in the morning and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a routine activity thing to where it's like, hey, let's preemptively get rid of the homeless, with anybody with narcotics, anything like that. That way, everyday citizens who are walking their dog, can do this in peace.
Yeah.
And I just remember one guy it was a no from the beginning. Like, I'm not putting my hands behind my back. I'm like, oh my God, hang on a second. You're supposed to put your hands behind your back, and I'm supposed to do this. And then, here's my stance and all of this. Right. And then it was just from the get go was no, you're going to make me put my hands behind my back, and it's going to be a fight all the way down to headquarters, and it's going to be a fight all the way down to jail. He knew the process.
Yeah. How did it go?
He ended up getting arrested. Yeah. He goes to jail. But it's a use of force.
Yeah.
And it was just a little armbar takedown, that type of thing.
Yeah. After it, were you like, holy shit, I did it.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I can do this, but it's just, you got to think like everything I came from was just scenarios. Yeah. Red man suit, and I'm not going to jail. Okay. Yeah. Generally speaking, they're going to make the scenario work and win. This was, okay. Make me.
Have there been instances or have you ever run into a guy that gave you kind of all you could fucking take physically?
Yeah, I was, my buddy Joe and we were riding together downtown Ocean Beach. He just got out of a bar. I think he did like a line of coke, some PCP in the alley, ended up going home. We ended up going to contact him, foot pursuit, catching him, and it was just the fight of both of our lives. Yeah. He bit me on the thigh, took a chunk out. He bit my partner at the time, bit his finger. I mean, it was just, we tased him a couple of times.
Wow. Was he a big guy, or was it just because he was so hopped up,
just not feeling pain?
Yeah.
And that was one to remember. Like, oh my God, like we're talking minutes and minutes, and we've called cover now. Units are coming. We're in the back alley of this alley of this alley of this yard, and they're trying to find us. And it was a several long minute fight where he's biting us, just eating. I mean, he was off of it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. To me, I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but like that would even further the. Yep. If you take somebody's air, it doesn't matter if they feel pain or not. If you get into a good control, whether it's mounted or a rear naked choke, kind of scenario, or a crucifix. I mean, something where you can control them fairly easily without a lot of effort and keep them from being able to injure you and either choke them out or just hold them there. But that would be fucking dicey for sure.
Yeah.
How long did you do the patrol gig for?
So I did patrol about 5 years, and then I went to our department's gang unit, our uniform gang unit. We have detectives that are plainclothes, and then we have the uniform side of things that, do stops for those detectives, follow-ups, things of that nature, just proactive enforcement.
Yeah.
Kind of the special operations. Hey, we got a guy with a gun, he this, that, and the other thing, and he's driving around in this area, the high-profile stuff.
Yeah. With that 5 years of patrol, are there any other stories from that time that stand out as being memorable / worth sharing?
Nothing necessarily memorable. It was more really just like working the cases, arresting people, doing the follow-ups and stuff like that, just doing the backbone of law enforcement.
Yeah.
I think within police agencies, they always say patrol's the backbone, but then it's one of those things, are you treating them like that? So it's just, I appreciated being the backbone, and then realized like, hey, let's get the avenue into the gangs. Let's get to avenue narcotics and canine and that type of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like the years in patrol, it's kind of like seat time for a pilot. Like it's just putting your time in and becoming a well-rounded, good police officer, generally speaking.
Yeah,
experience.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think for me, it was, I'm not going anywhere till I have 5 years on. I'm not going to request any agency or any department or anything like that. I'm going to have 5 years on.
Is that normal?
No, now, I mean, 5's the new 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to where it's just law enforcement in general, whatever your beliefs are with COVID, people leaving COVID, vaccine, not vaccine, terminations, things like that. People leaving just in general. So then now it's one of those things like you'll have very junior people in spots.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was it's going to be a star in my name tag was the thing and then I'll ask to go to places.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you just put most of your time, patrol.
Yeah. So you go into uniform gang. Was that I'm assuming a big shift from patrol? Big
shift from patrol. Somebody brought it up. It was working the gang unit. Their special operations unit now is dog years. What you do there is what people think cops do every day. So when at the barbecues, I go, hey, that's what the gang unit does. The pursuits, the guns, the follow-ups, the warrants, things of that nature. That's what the gang unit does. Patrol, it could be a noise call, barking dog call, but that's where that's where I learned the most is gangs. Just proper follow-ups, proper documentation, proper use of force, reasonable suspicion, probable cause, all that stuff, getting into cars, when to not get into cars, when to push, wall stops, things of that nature.
Is there and can you give us a normal day there?
Yeah. So pretty much second watch, you do line up and you just kind of, hey, this guy's wanted, she's wanted for this, she's wanted for questioning this. We kind of just know the neighborhoods that we're going to go in just based off of intel that we've already received. Everything's stat driven. Everything's, radio call driven. We're not just somebody going to the community and just picking on anybody. It's more or less, hey, there's a purpose there. Once we have all of that, we get with our partner and we jump in the car and then we just go up into a neighborhood and then look for whoever we need to look for and go from there.
Yeah. Are the neighborhoods in San Diego, are they pretty routinely, this area is bad or this neighborhood is this affiliation gang-wise? Do they change much or is it pretty historical?
Historical, for sure.
Can you give us kind of a 30,000-foot view gang layout of San Diego?
Yeah, you could say south of 94 has Black and Hispanic gangs. And then downtown, a lot of people now are kind of molding into downtown just because of the drugs. So, I mean, it could be white, black, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. It's just everybody's selling. Just with the homeless situation that we're having. But generally speaking, I mean, yeah, there will be streets that are, hey, once you cross this street, this is, Blood, Crip, whatever it might be, territory. It doesn't change.
Yeah. Are there like a shitload of different gangs or is it pretty big player franchise style gangs? I mean, are there a lot of little 13th Street fucking Lobos or like, is there weird shit like that or is it?
There is, but it's not like LA where it's like just so many compartmentalized gangs. It's more or less, hey, this is going to be X gang. This entire neighborhood is that gang. Yeah. Once you cross like a certain area, it'll jump over to maybe another black gang set, Hispanic gang set, whatever it might be.
What are those gangs? Can you name them?
Yeah, there's you have Shelltown 38, you got Gamma, you have 5-9 Brim, you have Lincoln Park, Skyline Piru, things of that nature.
Are they all a specific race-based gang or affiliated with a bigger, more well-known?
The ones in the city of San Diego, mostly black gangs, Hispanic gangs. East County is going to be more of the white gangs, motorcycle gangs, the OMGs, HAs, Mongols, things of that nature.
Yeah.
We have a little bit up north as far as like outlaw motorcycle gangs go, things of that nature. But generally speaking, most of the gangs south of 94 are going to be Hispanic and black.
Yeah. Is there a difference or Hispanic versus black? Is one bigger than the other numbers wise?
I don't know that. I don't think they're bigger. Hispanic gangs are typically more organized.
Okay.
Just because we're so close to the border, you have the cartel, obviously, and there's rank and structure within the cartel system.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, Hispanics do have a hierarchy, and there's a little more rank and file and order within there.
Do you find between black, Hispanic, and white that there's a group that gives you the hardest time as far as dealing with them?
The hardest time, no, because generally speaking,
Or they're all a pain in the ass?
yeah, they're just all a pain. It's just, you get why they're doing it. Just whether it's just the income or what have you. But I would say just different times for different things. Maybe I think they all just generally a pain.
Yeah. Does one gang in particular stand out as being like the quickest to react, or the most violent, or the most notorious for being the hardest gang in terms of what they do and how they do it?
So OMGs, they're probably the most violent, but you don't hear about it as often. With like black and Hispanic, obviously.
What is the OMG?
Outlaw motorcycle gang.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. So
really, they're the most violent?
Yeah, they can absolutely be the most violent. They're just like, they get a lot of them torture, mayhem, things of that nature, against other OMGs or against themselves or whatever it might be. You're probably not going to see, other victims getting crossed into that traffic, because they want the money, they want all of that, and they want to stay private.
Yeah.
You're typically you're not going to get a drive-by shooting or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then somebody caught in the crossfire.
Yeah. How many years did you do that for?
That was a little under 3 years,
Okay.
and then went to K9.
And in that time, is that when you had officer-involved shooting?
Yes, that was my first one. We ended up doing an investigation. It was, and this is long since done. Investigation. The suspect was beating his dad, so he was wanted for elder abuse. And he went in and he asked, and he said, "Hey, I need to file a report on my son. But by the way, he makes pipe bombs, cricket bombs, makes his own firearms, kind of like sovereign citizen-ish, to where like just anti-law enforcement, obviously anti-law enforcement, anti-law, anti-government, that
Is he
type
gang
of thing.
affiliated or like lone wolf kind of shit?
No, prior military. Prior military.
Just military guys, I tell you what. Can't trust them.
Yeah, just off his rocker, and it was just one of those things. Just thought the world was after him, and ultimately it was like it came down to the gang section to say, hey, you know what? We're going to make the stop on him. We're going to try to lure him away from his house, which we ultimately did. Our special investigations unit lured him away from the house. A friend hit the suspect's friend, said, hey, you know what? I ran out of gas. Can you come on up? And then ultimately he's obviously paranoid and things of that nature. And then he actually does leave his house, and we were going to pull him over at a park and ride, just good backdrop, that type of thing. Ends up leaving his house. He pulls into the park and ride. At that day, I didn't have my partner. So our gang sergeant at the time said, hey, you know what? You're going to have to be the perimeter more or less and stop from anybody getting in the park and ride. You don't have a partner, because the partner officer was going to get out with a rifle, just knowing that he made handguns and had possibly had bombs, that type of thing. He pulls into the park and ride. He does a U-turn around a bus, and he just sees Congo line of gang cars, just ding, 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 ding. So then he floors it.
What was he driving?
Like a red Ford Explorer. He floors it. We had the Bearcat at the time. And the image is still in my mind. A good friend of mine tried to hit him with the Bearcat, just to stop him from getting out. Missed by a few feet. He ultimately drives up an embankment out of the park and ride. Makes a left. I see this, but then I see officers, detectives that were kind of just like holding back citizens. They're all crossing the street. So a few detectives are crossing the street. He's up and out of this park and ride, and I see him. He's making a left, and I hear the engine start revving. He's trying to run them over, at least evading, and they're going to be a result of that. So I get in my car, I throw it in drive, I ram him, push him into a wall, so he doesn't end up running him over, and then from there, he just raises a firearm. It ended up being a homemade shotgun. Raises the firearm and just starts pulling the trigger. Fortunately, nothing came out. through fast forward, it actually they ended up saying like, hey, this was an operable, firearm, but for whatever reason it wasn't going off. Thank God.
Yeah.
And ultimately, officer involved shooting ensued. Suspect was deceased on scene, and then pretty much from there cleared the car. As we get him out of the car, cricket bomb, pipe bomb, that type of thing comes out.
Did any of them go off, or?
No. Fortunately, none of them went off right then and there. Once the scene was rendered safe, we brought our San Diego Fire in, and they detonated the device on scene. They were such high order, they used like bomb blankets and bomb things there just to set them off there.
Yeah.
Just because they were such high order.
Yeah. Do you know what was in them?
I think it was black powder. They ended up like saving a couple of our vehicle doors because when they blew them off, it just.
Yeah.
I have like in my old gang car, there's like a baseball size hole in the door and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But fortunately, none of them never went off. By the good grace of God, the gun never went off. It's unfortunate the outcome for sure. But yeah.
Do you know what his background was militarily?
No, I know he was a Marine. I don't know what the background was.
Yeah. Man, that's wild.
Yeah, he just slowly got just kind of inundated, just the anti-government, the anti-this, the no license plate on the car. I can't register through the state. Just totally sovereign citizen type.
Yeah. Wow. As far as your involvement in that, I mean, what is there a typical time that it takes to work through that, or does it just totally vary?
It totally varies. Mental health is being pushed for now, pushed widely now. Just departments just kind of seeing it's a thing.
I guess I meant like investigation-wise.
Oh, investigation-wise, it's going to go. So since it happened outside of the city of San Diego, and the city of San Diego paralleled the investigation, it took a little longer. But generally speaking, I mean, between interviews and surveillance and stuff like that, it's going to be about a couple of months.
Yeah.
A year later, once an officer-involved shooting happens, you'll get a clearance letter from the district attorney's office saying, hey, you were under investigation for homicide, more or less.
Yeah.
However, we deem this a justifiable homicide due to the fact that the suspect pointed a firearm at you.
Yeah. The instant that happens, do they have a protocol where they say, hey, you're in an officer-involved shooting, we're taking you off the line, so to speak? Like, do they take your gun from you? Like, do they do all that kind of shit, or?
Take your gun, no, but it's going to be you're off duty admin time.
Yeah.
Any officer involved shooting, you always read in the paper, paid on administrative leave. Yeah, so that's going to be days off at home, minding your business, and maybe you just go back and forth for interviews, that type of thing.
Yeah.
They will take your gun because they'll do ballistics on the gun because they want to know where the bullets went, and every bullet needs to be accounted for.
Yeah.
So they'll take your gun in that aspect, but it's not, hey, turn in your badge and gun for a week.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
But they'll even issue another one if you want one.
Oh, I gotcha.
I have enough, so I am good.
Can you say how many times you shot him, or how many times it took to neutralize the threat? Can you?
Yeah, I ended up having to shoot through the car door, so a full magazine.
Oh, wow.
At the time.
Yeah.
He laid down, but I could see the shotgun was still pointing at me. So ultimately, I had to shoot through the vehicle door.
Yeah. How did you handle that? Was it something that affected or impacted you significantly, or did you compartmentalize it? How did you get through it?
Yeah, friends would be the biggest thing. Yeah, they're going to make you do the psychological debriefs. That's just semantics. You're not going to. I don't know if anybody that really says everything at the psychological debrief or any critical incident debrief. It's the friends after that you hang out with that legitimately check on you, that legitimately care and stuff like that. But I think with this one, it was just more of like hey, that's, you pointed a firearm at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had manifestos and cricket bombs and pipe bombs. So is it probably a little easier to digest for sure. It's not something I wanted to do, but it's just,
Yeah, it's part of the job. I mean, I guess, was it something that you had a hard time with at first?
No.
All right, so
just work out more.
Yeah. During that almost 3 year period, was that the only officer involved shooting in that?
Yeah, that was the that one. And then shortly thereafter, I ended up getting the Medal for Valor for that. Not for the shooting, but just the fact that I rammed him with the pipe bombs, knowing what could happen.
Yeah.
So I want to make it explicitly clear that the Valor was for that.
Yeah.
And then from there, I ended up putting my application in a Canine, and got picked up in Canine.
Yeah. During the gang unit stuff, were there any other stories that are super memorable or worth sharing of cool arrests or cases that you worked?
Yeah, I remember there was one. I remember I call it the pursuit of a lifetime because I always joke like with K9.
Yeah.
We'll get into it for sure. It's just make sure your dog's ready. You're gonna get that call of a lifetime, and you don't want to be the guy that says, "I don't know if I can do this" or "I haven't seen this." Right. And this was that pursuit of a lifetime. You know, cocaine out of the window. He's holding the bottom of a Ziploc bag, and it's just you know your hood, your windshields are all just getting just cocaine just spread right across. He's throwing guns out the window. He's on the phone, trying to dump more guns. It ended up being like a 30, 45-minute pursuit, like way out in East County. Wow. He sprints into his house and goes into the apartment. My partner at the time, like having like legitimate conversations, like, "Hey, so what are we gonna do?" You know, it's like long enough of a pursuit just to just to talk back.
Was
and
it high
forth.
speed?
Yeah, high speed, over 100 miles an hour. Just taking this freeway, taking that freeway, pretending he's going to exit, and then flying off. And it was just a typical pursuit.
Yeah.
And I just remember just looking over at my partner at the time, and he's still with the department, so I'll refrain from saying his name. But it was just one of those, like, looking at him and just kind of like,
this is happening.
this is real, man.
Yeah, that's a trip. Is that the fastest you've ever pursued somebody?
Yeah, generally speaking, the 100, 105, 110.
Yeah.
Once you start going 120, this car starts shaking. It's not the safest.
Yeah. So what's the mentality, or can you even speak to it with dumping cocaine and guns? Like that doesn't do any good, right? I mean, if you see them doing it, it's on your dash cam, like.
Yeah, and we're just gonna say, hey, somebody go pick up the gun. He ditched at whatever, the 163 and the 6th Avenue exit, something like that.
So I guess hypothetically, if you didn't find them, then would he be able to use that as a defense of saying, well, you didn't find it, so technically
he could try. But I mean, just with us, we have 2 officers sitting there watching, him, pass the gun around and then just start chucking guns, taking magazines, taking the bullets out, things of that nature. It's like, okay, we see what you're doing. Yeah, we may not be able to account for every single bullet in the magazine, but maybe we find the gun or something like that. So,
that's not going to hold up in court, right?
No.
So like, what's the point of even doing it?
Right. It's a slam dunk case. Then, hey, your DNA's on it and all of that. Yeah. Of course, we want that. But
how did you end up getting him once he was in his apartment?
I hope and prayer, I guess. It was, hey, just more of a contain and call out, and he came out within like 15 seconds. I'm sure he ditched something, flushed something, and just came right back out. He knew the gig was up. We pinned him down to the apartment. We said, hey, we know you're in there. And it was actually very easy. I was anticipating this was going to be a full SWAT call out. Nope. Just, hey, you're me? Yeah. And then came out and handcuffs, no resistance, nothing. It was just the pursuit of a lifetime. It was funny.
What was he driving?
Oh, man. I think it was like an Oldsmobile or like a Cadillac.
Oh, okay. So nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, he's not whipping around.
Yeah. Have you get, like, I guess in the gang unit, probably not so much, maybe. I guess your patrol time or really any of the entire, 16 plus years you've been doing it, have there ever been bikes or cars that ran from you that you just couldn't catch? That, like, is that something that happened a lot? Or
yeah, motorcycles for sure. Yeah, motorcycles for sure. It just again, is the juice worth the squeeze? What's he wanted for? Is my first question. What's he physically going to jail for?
Yeah.
Speed. Okay, I'm not going to risk my life, other people's lives, and even his own life for a 100-mile-an-hour ticket, 110-mile-an-hour ticket.
Yeah.
So people get away all the time. So it's okay.
Yeah. Does San Diego PD as a department have a policy, like a no chase policy or anything like that?
No, nothing like that. The biggest thing we just ask is just supervisors, our lieutenants and stuff like that. Like, hey, is the juice worth a squeeze? That type of thing. It's just, what are we chasing him for? What's he physically going to jail for? Is a suspect known? Is it juvenile? And just kind of have those checks and balances. Like, is this worth it right now?
Yeah.
Is
there a particular problem that plagues San Diego from a law enforcement standpoint the most?
Homeless.
Yeah.
Homeless for sure. We're close to the border. So you do have the undocumented issue with the hotels and just getting dropped off at bus stops and stuff like that. I'm sure people have seen on the news. And then just we have a serious homeless issue. Obviously, we have the good weather. It's sunny and 75, 300 degrees out of the year, or 300 days out of the year.
Yeah.
So then just a lot of homeless come over.
Yeah. But do you guys have a policy for undocumented? Like if you arrest somebody or question somebody and either they can't prove that they're American citizens or they even tell you that they're not, does that shift your policy for how you deal with them?
We, San Diego Police, no, we won't enforce any immigration laws. We don't touch any of that. That's for the jails.
Okay.
If they deem, a serious violent felony offense or something to that effect and they have to report what they need to, they'll handle it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do anything immigration related.
I gotcha. So if it's, I asked this question with another, it was an Arizona sheriff's deputy that I had on a little while ago. I don't know if you listened to that or not.
Not that one, no.
It's a hypothetical. So let's say you pull somebody over for speeding or something like some sort of traffic violation, and you walk up and you say, license, registration, and they don't have it. I don't have a license. I'm here illegally. Mm-hmm. What do you do then?
They can get a ticket. You tow their car, confirm the ID. We're not going to just say, okay, you're so and so, and then simply ticket them. We're going to do our best to confirm it's some type of ID, make sure who they are, who they say they are, and then they'll get a ticket and they'll get their car towed.
So if they have no ID, it's just you're towing their car and
writing them a ticket, and then that'll be it.
Just based off of who they say they are.
Yeah, it could be whatever country they're from. They hand us that ID card. We'll use that name. Hey, this matches. I'll make some phone calls. Obviously, we can call who we need to. Yeah. Saying, hey, is this ID legitimate? And yeah, it's legitimate. Okay. Yeah. So we know who we're writing the ticket to. And then from there, obviously, still do a records check and stuff like that. If he's not wanted and it's just simply he's here illegally or whatever it might be, but he does not have a license, he'll get a ticket and he'll get his car towed.
If there's no license, no ID, and it's kind of on purpose, like let's say you pull me over, you don't know me from anybody, but I'm just like, I don't have a license. Well, give me some ID. I don't have any ID on me at all. Well, who are you? Well, I'm fucking John Smith.
Yep.
And you were doing, 20 over or whatever. How do you handle that?
We'll detain him. We can take him down to our headquarters and fingerprint him.
Yeah. Would you guys normally do that in every case if that happened?
Maybe not every case. It's one of those, like, this is where the letter law, spirit law is, is it grandma? Or is it like, hey, something's up here. Yeah. Is she 90 years old and she's lost and she's this, that, and the other thing? Okay, I'm hoping that, the no ID thing slides, that type of thing, versus like, he's got tattoos on the throat, looks like a gangster, and just, says, hey, I'm, it's like, no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I would imagine that the undocumented issue, illegal immigrant, whatever the fuck, is as significant in San Diego based on location as it is in Arizona. But he was saying that they get so much of that is that if somebody's like, yeah, I'm not from here, they're just like, fucking beat it then. Yeah. And they just let them go.
And that's where that letter of law, spirit law, it's like, okay, yeah, you're probably going to let some go, but then if we need to, we can detain them and take them to headquarters and get them fingerprinted. Yeah.
Which to me, my heartburn with that, I was like, so me as an American citizen,
right,
a fucking combat veteran, like if I give you my ID, I'm not getting out of that for sure. But if I'm like, yeah, I'm here illegally from Belgium, I don't have an ID, sorry, right. You're just going to let me go, like for speeding? Like, well, fuck, I'm just going to say that from now on.
Right.
Right. He was like, well, you could. Yeah. I was
you
like,
could try.
That seems pretty fucked up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't seem like it's the right way to handle it. I don't know what the right way is because very quickly you'd end up with thousands or tens of thousands of people that you don't know who they are in your jails. But man,
yeah, the jails will fingerprint everybody.
Yeah.
So they'll know. But yeah, you could come across 10 stops, and 10 stops you let them all go.
Yeah. All right. So back to the gang unit stuff. Were there any other cool cases or stories that you can share from your time there? Stand out.
Yeah, I think mainly it was just like I said, the camaraderie for sure.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I enjoy the banter. I enjoy kind of what policing was 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I just wish we'd get back to that.
Yeah. Do you think that's possible?
You always hear about that law enforcement pendulum. It's going to swing back our way. I hope it does, but I think it needs to.
Yeah.
We can certainly move at the speed of trust with the community and say, hey, how do you want us to police? We'll police how you want us to, but then understand these things could happen or this could not happen and have an honest conversation.
Yeah.
So I think it could. I really do think it could go back. It's just a matter of when, that type of thing.
Yeah. Any crazy fistfights with gangbangers?
Nothing crazy because they knew we were the gang unit, so then it was just... P's and Q's. It was one of those things. They knew it was up. At the time, we all had a slick top car, so they knew like, okay, hey, this is the gang unit. So they kind of just nope, I'm not arguing.
Yeah.
Kind of know what you guys are about.
Yeah.
They just went with the program.
Is there any identifying insignia on your uniform that you wear that would tip them off to that?
Nope. The only thing at the time, obviously we switched to the police SUV now, but some of them have the cool, the slick tops, but every single gang car had no lights on top.
I gotcha.
So it was very obvious that, okay, this is the gang units here.
Yeah. All right. So you get picked up for K9, kind of a dream come true, right?
Yeah.
Walk us through kind of the early stages of that.
I appreciated K9. Just what you put into it is what you get out. I just love that. Like I said, I competed in powerlifting. I enjoy the weight training, just the no growth in the comfort zone aspect of it. And I was like, oh man, what you put into K9 is what you get out of it. So I really enjoyed that. It's an 8-week academy, 320-hour academy, all dog training. We buy our dogs up north in Riverside.
Adler horse?
Adler horse, yeah. Very good relationship. Mike's a good dude. Takes care of us and get all our dogs there, and we do our 8-week academy, and then you go out in the field and kind of just start answering radio calls. We are not assigned to SWAT. We have attachments that work with SWAT and stuff like that, but we are in a black and white, helping out patrol, answer K9 radio calls, things of that nature.
Yeah. Is the academy, the 8-week handler course up there? Is that considered the K9 Academy, or do you guys have your own in-house one?
We do our own in-house one, 8
no
weeks,
shit.
8 weeks long. California standard says 240 hours, which is 6 weeks. We do a 320-hour one, 8-week. Even this last one that we just ran was 12 weeks long.
Wow.
Dogs are a lot newer. Just what you spoke on with the muzzle stuff at the very beginning. Yeah. Just they need a lot of looks, and some of them get washed, some of them get returned. It's just they need a lot more training. So generally speaking, it'll be an 8-week academy with a 4-week FTO phase.
So you guys aren't sending your handlers through any civilian handler course anymore?
No. Yeah. Tactics are a big thing. Scenarios are a big thing. Policy stuff, body-worn cameras. So we keep it in-house. We'll go to outside training and stuff like that. Yeah. So we're not just one way of thinking. Yeah. But we'll handle it in-house, just with the liability and with the new assembly bills we'll talk about, Assembly Bill 3241 and 2042. There's going to be certain standards for sure.
What are those?
So Corey Jackson, he's an assemblyman. He wrote 742. Initially was abolishing K9, saying California no longer has K9 whatsoever. Every single thing needs to be deleted. Every single K9 unit. That ultimately got voted down. He rewrote it, made it a little softer, put a softer touch to it, and that came out as AB 2042. And essentially what we wrote, Porak, myself, I was the cool thing, something I thoroughly enjoyed, just a different line of canine work, was help writing the rebuttals, and then even testifying at the California State Assembly. As the only law enforcement officer, canine handler up there, is just kind of a fun thing to do, but it ended up being we're going to kind of just melt the bills together, saying, hey, we need to standardize K9, and that's what that bill was.
For the whole state? For
the whole state. It's, is it 6 weeks? Is it 8 weeks? Is it, you got to have multiple ways to take a dog off strong or whatever it might be, remove the dog from the bite. We just kind of need to standardize the training versus like it's just all over the place.
Yeah. And so that's in place now? In place
now. It's going to be voted in more than likely soon. So, I mean, it's about getting there. Yeah. It's about just working with Assemblyman Jackson, just saying, hey, what is it that you want? And then our side, same thing too. And just kind of, like I said, just in the beginning, just moving at the speed of trust, saying, hey, this is where we need to be within this aspect, and just kind of just regulating police canines.
Yeah. Is that going to end up having a standardized handler course for all canine handlers throughout the entire state? Like, will they all go through the same schoolhouse kind of thing? Or?
No, it'll just be, hey, what is taught? You know what I mean? So like with ours, we teach a lot of tactics. That's why we want the in-house stuff and stuff like that. We just teach a lot of tactics, a lot of scenarios, a lot of could versus should, things of that nature. And it'll just be the other people that run canine units or have these canine vendors. They'll just have to be like, hey, what are you teaching? Yeah. It can't just be dog training. Yeah. This guy with 4 years on, you just can't take a dog and all of a sudden just go do dog training. He's going to have to understand, hey, you got to have multiple ways of taking the dog off strong, or you have to understand how to handle yourself in this scenario.
Yeah. Do you guys not require a verbal out?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, verbal out and recall, call off, all of that stuff.
But also in the instances where it fails, then you have certain approved methods of taking them off strong.
Yes, and we'll test the verbal out and recall. It's not required that we do that on a suspect. It's an option. It's not the option. We make sure our handlers can do it 10 ways to Sunday.
Yeah.
If they choose to use the verbal out and recall, if it's good in that context, they'll use it. If not, they can physically remove the dog from there, out sticks or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Whatever they need to do. Just have multiple ways.
Yeah.
What we don't want is somebody handcuffed, somebody screaming, and the dog is still on the bite.
Yeah, I gotcha. Have a way to end it.
Yes.
Quickly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because to me that whole trust thing. I mean, especially for people who, know absolutely nothing about dog training, when they see that type of thing, it can look pretty fucking terrible. Which, it would suck being handcuffed and being bit, and the guy can't get the fucking dog off you. Like, that's a pretty terrible scenario. But I mean, like anybody that's involved in it has been in that scenario, usually more than once, where
right.
there isn't anybody. It's like, it's the job of me getting bit to get the fucking dog off of me. But, but for those, in that situation, I mean, that is a pretty bad deal. But, that, and I think like when the dog's biting the shit out of somebody and they're like, stop fighting the dog, like lay still or I'm going to let him keep going. It's
I can't. I physically can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, he looks like he's having a fucking seizure and you're like, fucking stop moving.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say?
Yeah. That's where before that dog is even deployed or even sent, there's protocols that need to be met, for sure. So, I mean, and as long as that one aspect is taken care of, I mean, hey, de-escalation is 50%. 50% on us to make sure that we're doing our jobs, but the suspect also has to choose to de-escalate as well.
Yeah.
If he chose to hide himself underneath a bed with a gun and he gets bit, that's what he chose.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah. What was your first dog like?
First dog was Nero. He's since passed just a little bit ago. He was a KNPV, PH1. He just, everything you could ask for in a dog.
Yeah.
Over 25 apprehensions with him.
Oh, wow.
He was.
That's a hell of a first dog.
Yeah, he was above my pay grade, for sure. I was definitely blessed to have him.
Yeah.
Handler sensitive, never came up the leash, but had no issues with the things he saw out there.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things. Like, I didn't have to rule him with a heavy hand or anything like that. It was a lot of positive reinforcement, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Solid, good, strong dog. Did well in the SWAT environment, that type of thing.
Yeah. The 25 bites, I mean, that's quite a few by anybody's metric, especially for a first dog. Are there any that stand out as being exceptionally memorable?
Yeah, it's the typical runaways, the vehicle barricades, area searches, building searches, things of that nature. And then there was a couple in there. There was an incident we had in our City Heights, Rolando area. He ultimately was lighting a fire in his kitchen. Fire department officers get there. He ends up shooting at them.
Was he trying to burn the house down?
Trying to burn the house down, kind of came in as like to check the welfare. He gets in there, shoots. They have to extract the officer out. Ultimately, they shoot back. SWAT gets there. We all get there. And I know our robot was in there like, hey, we're not sure if this guy is breathing alive. Is he baiting us in? He's got armor on, all that type of stuff. So just something memorable was with this dog. It was one of his last bites before he retired, and he lives at the ranch. It was just confirming life through the use of the dog and just kind of figuring out he needs to go down a hallway, into a room, bite him. I got to watch it on robot, and then drag him back away from the gun because we think he's lying in wait for us. The officers they're not sure if they hit him or not or that type of thing. So we never send our dog on suicide missions. However, if a officer is going to go in, we're going to send the dog in on first. We're not going to knowingly send him in on a suicide mission. But then again, I'm not going to ask an officer, hey, he might have a gun, he might be armed, you might get in a shooting, you might get shot.
Yeah.
And that's where that could versus should splits in there. Ultimately, bite him, drag him away from the gun, making it safe for officers to approach. Our SWAT team goes in and they kind of clear the rest of the house, and we take him into custody.
Yeah.
Just something definitely memorable, just kind of a high profile incident.
From a tactic standpoint, in a scenario like that, will you attempt to gas him first? Or did you guys?
They did. They did. They tried to gas. I know he had windows open and stuff like that. Saturation was going to be an issue, things of that nature.
Yeah. Where did he bite him? Do you remember?
It was his hamstring, I believe.
Like a pretty gnarly one?
Yeah, a decent one. He had a good grip, and I was able to take him off. And
yeah. And you pulled him out, like his hamstring stayed on, getting pulled out by it?
Yeah. No, yeah. Everything stayed intact. Everything was good.
Yeah. From in that same 25 bite catalog, if you will, was there a nastiest suspect in terms of what they had done, of who you were going after that the dog bit?
That would probably be the one.
That guy?
Yeah, that guy right there. That'd be that for sure. Just the fact that you're shooting a cop, that type of thing.
Yeah. All the rest of them were like robbery, fleeing type stuff. And
yeah, stolen vehicle, area searches, building searches, breaking into people's houses, hiding in closet. I mean, I could just rapid fire a couple of them. Where I had one where he bit a guy. He was in the woman's closet pretending he was clothes. So all of these incidents, this is where I apply it to Echelon K9, just to where it's like, oh man, I've been through that. Yeah. And this is one where he's standing in the closet pretending as if he's a hanger of clothes. Yeah. The dog bites. I see him through a mirror biting. I'm like, that's not, he's on it. And he's not one of those like, sharking, just going to check it and test it. He's going to town on the shirt. I'm like, that's not like him. He's not the mattress biter. He's not the distracted type. But then I see legs, and then the dog, the guy starts to like move. The dog's like, oh wait, let's go of the shirt, and then ultimately bites him. Yeah. So it's like, okay, that's a good scenario. Yeah. That type of thing. Yeah. Couple of recycling center bites. He's biting over crushed cans in a trash bag onto the suspect because he covered himself. Oh wow. Dumpster bites, things of that nature. Yeah. Can your dog actually root and push through? Yeah. Pushing. Can the dog actually, after he alerts at a door, can he push the door open and go in? People between mattresses, people between couches. We've seen people, we found people where they jackhammer out their floorboard and they put a piece of plywood on it, but they put the bed on it, and suspects are hiding within the floor of their house, if you will. Yeah. Dogs start to alert out of floor, and you're like, what's going on here? We call them back, do some announcements, nothing happens. You're like, what is going on? And they have the whole house dug out, just maze-wise, so if they know if the cops are, they flip out the rug, they flip out the board, they jump to the bottom of the house, and they go out the back, that type of thing.
In that instance, or those instances, did you end up ever sending him down through that, or did you go out of the house and try to like squirt or patrol him out the back? Or
one of them, no. One of them, as soon as we moved the plywood, he's like, all right, you got me. It's been his hiding spot a while, and he couldn't go any further than where he dug out. One of them, it was up in our Linda Vista community. He did dig the house out, but ultimately, as soon as he saw us for doing this, he squeaked out to patrol, and patrol got him in custody.
Oh, I gotcha. Did anybody ever put up a significant fight with the dog? Did you ever have anybody that really battled him?
Yeah, I don't know if even nowadays, and we're getting suspects biting the noses of dogs.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like fentanyl. People just the fearfulness of it. They're not as scared, but it's not uncommon. We've had a dog shot and killed. We've had a couple dogs stabbed. It's just one of those things. Nero specifically, my first dog. I know he's had his eyes almost gouged out. He had one where the suspect tried to snap his jaws open. He's had the tips of his ears bit off. Wow. It's not uncommon for the dog to be messed with after the bite. And I'm not talking the choke chain, "Ow, this hurts, come grab your dog." I'm talking he's giving it to the dog. Yeah. Unfortunate for the dog, but fortunate enough for us because it allows us to move at a position of safety and get him into custody.
Yeah. How long did you have Nero for?
Oh man. 3 when I bought him, 5, 6, 7 years working. Yeah, it took him a little longer. We typically retire our dogs at 8.5. I just kept him a little bit longer in service.
Yeah. And have you had one dog after him or two?
So the good thing, I got to Canine, did the whole Canine thing. I just took it in like a sponge. I'm the type that I want to know everything there is about Canine. Yeah. I'm not dipping my toe in on anything. Went to as many classes as I can, read as many books as I could. Video, I didn't care what it was. If it had something to do with Canine, I'm watching it. So from there, I ended up being the head trainer. So I was very fortunate in that aspect. I became the head trainer, and with that, I ran a split cage in my car, so I had Nero in the working capacity, and I would just work green dogs. Oh, okay. Buy a dog, so then I don't have to take whoever out of service. I can just hand them off, that type of thing. Oh, so I got my hands on a lot of dogs, got to train even more dogs. Yeah. Whether it be puppies, shepherds, Slovak Mals, it didn't matter. Dutch Cane BB, fully trained. Yeah. It was just dog after dog after dog. It was
fucking
nice.
Great gig, man.
Oh man,
That's awesome.
I'm like, the worst part I have to do is scoop poop. I'll be okay.
I'll be okay. That's really cool. From a selection standpoint, we were talking on the Patreon members, we did kind of a whole thing on analyzing a dog usage video with the Georgia State Patrol, and we talked a fair bit about muzzle work and kind of my opinion on it, I guess. So if you want to check that out, you can join the Patreon and get that extra stuff. In that same kind of vein, I'd love to talk a little bit about selection and training. You being the head trainer, like how big of a influence, role, et cetera, do you play in the selection process going up to Riverside to pick out the dog? Is it completely up to you? Do they make recommendations? Do you go up there and just sift through 10 of them to find one, or how does that work for you guys?
We'll bring so I'm the training sergeant now, so I'll bring a few of my trainers up. At the time, it was myself and another trainer. We would go select dogs, but we try to do a group effort, a collaborative effort. Everybody's got their own niches and things of that nature, what they see in a dog, what they like in a dog, that type of thing. So typically 3 to 4 trainers go up, and then we just start working them, whether it be, the back tie, the area searches, hot, warm, cold starts, building searches. Just say, hey, like, we didn't see this in this dog, or didn't like this in that dog, that type of thing.
Yeah. Is it always a potluck, if you will, of the 3 or 4 of you guys kind of hot washing it afterwards and saying yay or nay on a dog, and maybe one guy's like, yeah, I don't really know, and the other 3 are like, yeah, I think that this one's good. Like, do you ever have...
Yeah, you could have that one that, like, hey, I love this dog, and it could be for, hey, what did you see specifically, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, we're all going to be on the same page, like, this is the type of dog we need.
Yeah.
Just the frequency of calls we go to, the amount of deployments and stuff like that, we're going to need a dog that hits the ground running. Or, hey, this dog's a little greener, okay, then like we're doing now, 2 of my trainers, they're working a green dog right now, concurrently with their in-service dog, knowing that, hey, we're going to have to get him up to speed because it's going to take 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Showed good qualities, has good environmental, strong in all of that aspect, but he just needs, never been told to sit, and he's only been on a Belgian sleeve. He's going to need some bicep work, tricep work, legs, and things of that nature.
Is there an average age that you guys are selecting your green dogs at?
18 months to 2 years, I'd say, would be the average age. We have, at the time, the dog that I have now that's assigned to me, he was 8 months when we bought him.
Wow.
Just very strong. And I was talking to Mike. He's like, dude, this dog is very good. It's just he needs a lot of training.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm the head trainer. I have time to do this. I'm going to be doing academy after academy after academy. So he can get 15, 20 weeks of training before he hits the field. So ended up taking him as a project dog. But that's a rarity. Most of the time it's 18 months is when we get him 2 years old. As you know, dogs fully mature at 2, so he is what he is at that point.
Yeah.
Little older, okay, is it because he's more trained? Is it because is he a return? that type of thing.
Yeah. And you guys have 40 dogs now, right?
Yeah, I think we're about to put 40 in. We have 35 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the process of what you look for is, can you give, I know you already kind of mentioned a little bit of the things that you look at, but for a non-canine person to walk through a generic overview of the selection, what you're looking for?
Yeah. So we just did a recent selection. What'll end up happening is you'll put your transfer request in saying, hey, I want to go to Canine. You're going to have that good command approval saying, yeah, you can. You can at least put in for it. We'll have a tactical shoot, consists of a 40-round shoot, one-handed, strong-handed only, whatever it might be, to the knee, things of that nature, with the leash, without a leash, stuff like that. Once you pass the tactical shoot, we'll have a physical tryout. We'll have to hold a 70-pound bag. You got to jump over a 6-foot wall, get in an attic, run some stairs, sprint some things. You got to hold a kettlebell to your chin, a 50-pound kettlebell to your chin, simulating you're taking the dog off. You got to hold that for at least 60 seconds. It can't slip from your chin. You have to be able to take a bite, walk a few steps, lay down, get up, establish proficiency, show proficiency within your decoy skills. And then from there, you can have the interview. The interview is 6 questions, and 6 questions. One is always, hey, why are you the best for the job? And then essentially from there, it'll be tactical questions. Whether it be setting up perimeters, case law, could versus should. I would not use the dog in this. I would use it in this, in that aspect. Yeah. From there, there's a list. It gets compiled on a list, and we pick the highly qualifieds from there.
Is it a pretty competitive gig?
Yes. I think cops are kind of seeing just, I can just sit and patrol, like we talked about. And now in Canine, you're sending a dog on a person. There's a lot of responsibility for that. you know, and then some of these people may not have the housing requirement to begin with or want the responsibility. So it's definitely lessened a little bit as far as how many applicants are going in.
Yeah.
We could get anywhere from 15 to 25 putting in for it. We used to get 50.
Oh, wow.
50.
For one spot?
For 3 to 4 spots. 50 spots, or 50 people put in for 3 to 4 spots, and it just maybe 2 at a time every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Now it's about 15 to 25-ish or so, and then we're going to pick up 3, 4 maybe.
Yeah. Can you walk through that same thing, but for the dog? I know you mentioned a few things that you look at, but when you guys go to select a dog, what's the general overview of what you're looking for?
Yeah, we obviously want a dog with high prey. We're going to want him to go out, want him to search well, team-driven, social, clear-headed. Defense, yes. I think back in the day we put too much on defense. Where it's like, oh, he's got to be defensive, he's got to be able to stay in the fight. Yes. But we don't want an overly defensive dog to where now all of a sudden he's, barking in searches, letting him know where everybody's at, or if he's within a stack or anything like that, within a team environment, he's looking to bite them, or, just everything is just always in a defensive posture. So we'll do a little bit of back tie, the typical stakeout test, just to kind of see what the dog, where he's at with it. I think my biggest thing is just test fair. That's the biggest thing, is if we have an 8-month-old dog, okay, you shouldn't be stalking him. No sleeve and a stick or whatever's going to be, and putting so much pressure on an 8-month-old dog. He doesn't even know what's up yet.
Yeah.
So know what the level of training it is, but know the stakeout test is a trained event. You know what I mean? If I'm a vendor, or if I'm a European selling a dog, I'm going to train the stakeout test so he knows it, so I can make sure this dog gets sold. So as long as you know that.
Yeah.
I typically like doing things that are different. Holding various things in my hand, or doing things that are different, to where, hey, maybe this part's not trained. This dog hasn't seen that. He knows the stick, he knows the sleeve, and he knows me stalking them. But does he know balloons? Does he know a bucket? Does he know the way I'm moving? That type of thing.
Yeah.
Just evaluate from there. See what that looks like. Is the dog, play bowing? Is he sleeve sure? Is he looking at the sleeve? Is he looking at bear equipment or bear arm, whatever it might be? Is there any defense? Does he go on the other side of the back tie? Because some dogs didn't grow up on the back tie. Just be fair in the testing.
Yeah.
That's where that aspect of that test is. From there, we'll do area searches. I'll let him see the decoy. A few not letting him see the decoy, but knowing he exists. And then a few even putting the decoy in the backside of the scent cone, completely out of it, and just letting the dog go and see how long he goes for, with just maybe a few minute time limit.
Yeah.
Does he defecate on the search? Is he just distracted, grass, uninterested, that type of thing? How does he search? Does he work within the scent cone? Is he going out? Is he ranging out? Is he looking back to the handler? Things of that nature.
Yeah.
Do some area search stuff, just basic. Like, okay, he at least gets the area portion. And then from there, we'll do building searches, low light, no light, environmental stuff, get them up on tables, barrels, the typical bites that you see. Make sure they can understand and be able to compartmentalize the pressure that they'll get put on them. And then from there, we'll do some stairs, make sure they're good with the stairs, seeing through the stairs. And then pretty much anything else that we might need to see extra of, that's when we'll do it.
Okay. Could you put a percentage on the dogs that if they pass your selection criteria and make it to the unit, dogs that ultimately are not getting washed out and don't have failed to deploy issues? Is it, generally speaking, most of the dogs are successful?
Generally speaking, most of the dogs are successful. What I'm seeing now is just these dogs need a lot of looks and everything. You got to think a KMPV dog. You go get a PH1, probably seen a bicep for sure, seen a tricep, seen bikes and seen different things thrown at him, has a lot of pressure put on him. Just that type of environment puts a lot of pressure on him. So then that dog is going to be fine in that aspect. He might need to be cleaned up. But then now if you get a 12-month-old dog, a 15-month-old dog, and you train him up for 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's going to be, or even a 1.5-year-old dog, he just knows the sleeve. He's not titled. He's going to need more looks, and that's what I've noticed. And that's where, like with my business, just doing the like the scenario-based training. They're like, these dogs need looks, these random looks, just because it's obviously, I'm not even talking bite suit stuff. I'm just saying, hey, this guy has this, or this person's doing this, or this look. Yeah. These newer dogs need just maximum exposure to begin with.
Are you finding more dogs coming from countries other than the Netherlands now? Or are you still getting a lot of them?
Still getting a lot from the Netherlands. Slovak males are good. They're typically quiet, a little more social. I just, all the dogs I've had are like the KMPV Dutch dogs. Just, I have a heart for that.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I mean, Mike picks good dogs, and I think it's just one of those, whatever the best candidate is. But we probably, if I had to say, we probably gravitate to the Slovak Mal, the KPV Mal, Dutch Shepherd, or Belgian Mal. It doesn't matter. We have a few Shepherds in there, but not many.
Yeah. Is there a most common reason you wash a dog out during your testing phase?
I'd say in environmentals, because most of the things you can train. Like, I don't care if he takes a bicep on the test. I don't care if he takes a tricep. I can train that. Hey, this dog's never seen a suit. Okay, we can train that. Hey, this dog's never had a muzzle on. Okay, let's assume that he has nothing. What's the genetic makeup? What's the predisposition of this dog first is what I care about the most.
Yeah.
Is, hey, this dog can walk on glass and do backflips on tables and just whatever it might be, slick floors or nothing, stairs or nothing, gunfires, all this environmental stuff that you could throw at this dog. He's just like, yeah, what's up? Yeah. I could take that, knowing the training we can develop them.
But are you coming across dogs that environmentally are skittish, shy, unsure pretty often?
Yes, yes. We've tested a lot of dogs, a lot of different vendors, and it just doesn't happen. It's just, hey, this isn't going to work out. Just even before we get to the area search of the back tie stuff, it's like he just can't be whatever ball work with this type of environmental. He just doesn't even have it. Well, we're not gonna push him to the limits on some type of test. You know, when he doesn't have it, predisposition wise.
Yeah. Do you have a general training philosophy if you kind of take a step back and I guess reference it against old school versus new school? Like, do you have kind of this is where I fall in the philosophy train?
I think the biggest thing would be fluidity, just to where it's just understand there's different ways to train a dog. We make the joke, the only thing two trainers agree on is the third one's wrong.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, just know, I think just train the dog that's in front of you. And it seems so obvious. But as soon as I hear it's like, well, we used to, okay. All right, I'm good. Yeah. Well, back in the day, okay, yeah, right, all right.
Yeah.
The cattle prods and the sticks and this and that. It's like, okay, these dogs don't need that. You could probably do this with positive reinforcement. There's a little bit more animal behavior that I like to throw into the dog training instead of, oh, he's not listening to you. Put him in a muzzle and do some hard right turns. Yeah. It's like, okay. You're going to break this dog. You're at least going to deteriorate the bond. Yeah. How about we actually do the place command, which is not prevalent and not in a lot of agencies do not train the place command, but there's a place for that for sure.
Yeah.
And we train that, position boxes, things of that nature, actually, modifying behavior, instead of just, hey, this dog doesn't do X, Y, and Z, we're going to shit can him.
Yeah.
Or, hey, you know what, he doesn't do X, Y, and Z, we're just going to beat it into him. It doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah. Is that something you get pushback on often?
I did. Yeah. I did. When I first got to Canine, I think it was one of those like, hey, you know what? We need a decoy class. We got to train. We got to train these new guys how to take bites, reduce the fiscal impact on our own department. We can't just throw someone in a bite suit and say, hey, start screaming in the back. We actually got to teach them and train them.
Yeah.
Going to lineups, the could versus should and stuff like that. Just some ways of thinking, the old school canine mentality just had to change, and it did. And just some slight pushback, nothing major. But I think now it's just, as I see agencies all up and down California, just to where it's actually modifying the behavior is a thing like, wait, what? We're going to put time and we're going to train this and say, you're going to have to do a few training sessions. It's not going to just be return them to the vendor and then just call it a day. You're going to have to put some time into it and problem solve it.
Yeah. That's refreshing because when I first started teaching back when, when you went through that class and even a little bit before that, and even in my book, which is over 10 years old now, there were, I don't know that I'd call them necessarily progressive because they're not in regards to animal behavior and training, from a broad scope, but for working canines, it was, there weren't a lot of people that were kind of focusing on that. And kind of similarly, like I got a lot of the scoffing and the like, fuck, I'm not using a fucking clicker. And, it's
right.
like, whatever. And it's nice to see that, in the last 10 years, there's been a lot of progression, I think, with being smarter, still being balanced. Cause I certainly, I don't recommend or adhere to purely positive and that there's no consequences because there has to be.
Right.
One of my favorite kind of analogies with that is like if you're raising kids, if you're trying to shape behavior and teach things like, I want a positive environment. I want to motivate the dog to do what I want him to do and then reinforce it. But that's not all of training either, you know, and you know, if you use the analogy of using like kids, you know, if you're trying to teach, you know, a 12-year-old algebra or whatever, and you set the book down and they don't get it and you smack them for not understanding, that's a pretty shitty learning environment. You know, the kid's not gonna learn algebra very well. Right. On the same token, you know, so, you know, whereas if you use, you know, hey, if you get this right, you get dessert, or, you know, go to a park, or I mean, whatever it is. On the flip side of that is, you know, if you tell your 9-year-old, hey, I need you to clean your room, they're like, yeah, how about you go fuck yourself, Dad? You know, be like, okay, well, you're not getting ice cream for dessert tonight. Like that's not enough of a consequence, you know, for that type of behavior too. And I don't know why it seems to be so difficult, where like it seems like a lot of people it's one way or the other. It's not a blend, you know, and it's like you need both. Right.
You have to have the fluidity, and I think that's where we're saying is just, does the dog have the foundational level of discipline and know what you want him to do? Oh no, I don't think I've ever done that. Then don't throw the e-collar on. Yeah, that's not fair. Yeah, you know. And to your quote, it's just where we use the oven. Yeah. Yes, your 3-year-old daughter is about to touch the oven. Could you smack her teeth out of her mouth? Yeah, you could. She's probably not going to be happy with you. Probably not going to like you. Probably not going to trust you. She's going to fear you and all of that other stuff. Does she know that she shouldn't touch the oven? Can you explain it to her? Yeah. Can you teach her? Can you instruct, demonstrate, and apply it in all aspects? So if she does do it, then the punishment is that consequence, whatever it might be. And first of all, does that punishment even fit what they're doing? Yeah. You know, is a timeout more applicable? You know, same thing with the dog. Is a leash correction better than this, or is negative punishment better in this aspect, or whatever it might be? Yeah. Is simply just voice inflection going to be fine? You know, that type of thing. And I think it's just, I wish agencies just kind of, hey, just let's problem solve. Yeah. It doesn't have to be this, you know. Yeah. The King Kong approach with everything. Yeah. All right. So from a training philosophy standpoint, you know, it sounds like you and I have a lot of similar views on being well-rounded, fluid, balanced. You know, kind of letting the dog dictate, you know, what training is what. But do you guys have a method in terms of follow-on training, outside training that you adhere to? Like, do you send your guys to HITS and other, you know, conferences like that, or do you get much outside influence for latest training methodologies, stuff like that? Yeah, we'll certainly hit people up. We'll have vendors come in. I'm more of, I don't mind the conferences, just because the training sergeant's going to come through me. I'm going to look at it. Whether the training requests and stuff like that. I'm not against conferences, but I'm going to look at the location. I'm going to see where it's at. Oh, it's in Miami, huh? Yeah, it's in Miami. It's in Las Vegas. I'm going to look at that. You know, is it fiscally responsible? Is it a need? Is it a want? That type of thing. Yeah. Do I need to send 2 dudes there, or can I bring a guy in and I can teach 10 people? Yeah. That type of thing. Is there a different way of thinking that we all need to be on the same page versus these 2 people are going to listen to these type of classes and conferences, which they totally can, and we do go to conferences. But then, okay, how are they going to teach my other trainers? Yeah. You know, that's something I have to think about. And when they teach those other trainers, is it going to be the game of telephone? Are they going to get all the information in? Yeah. You know, or can I get actual hands-on learning from a vendor who comes in, a trainer who comes in and just gives us decoy skills, e-collar stuff, SWAT stuff, whatever it might be, get the outside perspective, but we're all on the same page. We take what we like, we dump what we don't, and then utilize it in-house. Yeah. No, I think it's a great way to approach it. Do you have a most challenging aspect of dealing with handlers? So anytime somebody says, this kind of goes with the, hey, what does it take to be canine? I always tell them there's 3 things. You're going to have to be a good patrol officer. I don't want to have to teach tactics, 2 to a room, shallow to deep, and all this other stuff inside the Canine Academy. You should already know officer safety tactics. You need to know use of force, optimal ranges of tasers and beanbags and 40s, and difference between CS and C and get all that stuff. I need that to happen first. So be a good patrol officer first. And then from there, I'm going to need a good decoy. At the end of the day, because we're going to send our dogs, okay, well, what do you do downrange? You know, the world's best trainer, best handler is just going to let go of the collar. And at some point, I hope not a brand new guy that's his second time ever taking a bite in the Canine Academy. I need a dog trainer at the other end of that. Then from there, that third portion is just kind of put it all together. You know, put your patrol officer experience, your canine handler experience we gave you, and your dog handling abilities to make sure your dog has tone or whatever he needs out in the field. Give him what he needs to be successful, and that being the third thing. What I see now is just, and it's something that we all, just every police agency, just newer officers. Yeah. You know, generally speaking, when I initially applied on to Canine, it was, 7, 8 years. And then I made Canine in a proactive unit. And even before then, it was 10, 15 years on, and guys stayed for life and this and that. But now it's not uncommon to have 3 to 5 year veterans say, hey, you know what, I'm ready to be Canine.
Yeah.
I've worked one patrol command, that type of thing. And it's no fault to them. They have to get the experience when they need to get the experience. But you are significantly teaching more now to these officers.
Yeah.
Now we're teaching more to the dogs because they're younger. So it could be a recipe for disaster, something we have to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite and least favorite discipline dog training wise that you like to teach?
You're saying as far as just like what to train, what not to train?
Yeah. Like, do you have something, is there one thing that you like training the most and one thing that you like training the least?
Man, training the least, that's going to be a tough one for sure.
Yeah.
I just enjoy the problems, Yeah. I want a dog that, like, he comes up the leash, he's nasty, I want to train that one.
Yeah. We should bring you out to the Warrior Dog Foundation facility.
Yeah, I want
all 30 of them are that way.
Yeah. See,
they're all out there because whatever unit they came from decided this dog is such a big liability, we're going to put them down instead of keep trying, and then that's when we take them. So.
Yeah. God bless you for sure. I like that. I like, hey, we're about to return this dog. He doesn't out. Oh, check. Stand by. Let me come up there. Let's look at it. Yeah. I truly enjoy teaching new handlers. Yeah. So I enjoy that, those first, let's say, I guess the first 2 weeks are essentially knowing your dog. But when you're kind of running a gun in the academy, that 4 to 6 weeks where it's like everything's new and their faces just light up, I enjoy seeing that. Yeah. You go to the academy, the regional academy, and teach them. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to be Canine. I like hearing that. Yeah. And then obviously seeing the finished product. I enjoy seeing my trainers train other people and they progress. So then these brand new handlers who have a few, high profile deployments, apprehensions, good finds. Even though I'm not physically taking the leash and doing this, I enjoy developing people to train them. Yeah. That's probably the biggest joy. So it's not specific to, hey, I like training vehicles or I like training areas. Yeah. It's more, I like developing people in that aspect and making sure the canine unit's there to stay. Yeah.
Have you had any big problems with any handlers as far as like having to shit can guys for just being total fuck ups or anything like that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I won't get into it too much. But I would say to any canine unit, is it a personnel problem? What's the culture like on the squad? Because it's going to be down to the supervisor. What is the culture on that squad? What's allowed to get away with? What's allowed to be said? What's not allowed to be said? Small things equal big things, that type of thing. Is it that type of problem? Is it a dog handling problem? That type of thing.
Yeah. So with you guys having almost 40 dogs or about to have 40 dogs, and are you the lead trainer?
Yeah. So the hierarchy of our unit is we have a canine lieutenant. Typically they'll have, SWAT experience, no canine experience. I don't think we've had any of that. It'll be more, at least tactical experience, very good administrative skills. And then there's the training sergeant, just overall day-to-day program type of thing. And then we have an admin sergeant, does admin things. And then we have 6 squad sergeants. And they all of our sergeants, to include myself, are assigned a dog and work a dog actively. And then they have 6 trainers that work underneath them with 2 to 3 handlers underneath them.
Oh, wow.
24/7 coverage, 365 citywide. We don't respond to calls like noise calls or anything like that. It'll be this person's barricaded, violent, has a knife, has a gun, has a crowbar, has a brick, whatever it might be. Yeah. And just respond to those calls.
Well, to me, it sounds like the canine unit would be the fucking place to be. Then you're not dealing with any bullshit. You're kind of dealing with more of the varsity calls in terms of shit that you want to be dealing with.
Yes, and that's where I said, well, hey, what does it take to be canine? Those 3 things. That's why I would like to have 40 sergeants, 40 little mini sergeants out in the field. Yeah. I can show up with a SWAT guy and say, hey, this is what canine can and can't do. Hey, SWAT guy, what do you think? This is a gas call. This is what we need to do. We speak about it with the patrol officer, and then we handle it effectively, whatever it might be, whether it's a dog call or not. Yeah. And that's why we need that type of caliber officer. But for sure, it's a place to be, because we don't time out. Yeah. You can be as crusty as you want there. Yeah. You can say 25 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. So on any given shift, how many dogs are actively out ready to respond?
We'll say 5 on average for sure. Yeah. Obviously we'll have barrel days where there's overlaps and stuff like that. So it's not uncommon to see like 10 to 15 dogs, on average for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Is there an average number of patrol apprehensions per year or per month or Like, do you guys, I mean, I know you track it, but I mean, is it something that you pay really close attention to, of like how many utilizations are taking place?
Generally speaking, 30-year average, we're like 45 bites a year, which isn't much. We go to a lot of radio calls, a lot of de-escalation, using the dog just as like a psychological deterrent. People often surrender and stuff like that.
Yeah.
30-year average is about 45. I could see that ticking down a little bit, for sure. But yeah, 45 is about that average.
Yeah. There's one instance, I'm assuming it was with Nero, maybe not, Bankers Hill issue where it was a shooting and a bite. Can you talk about that, or is it?
Yeah, it wasn't a bite. What ended up happening, we just got back from training, and at the time, my dog, he had enough experience. So it was like, hey, let's use the newer dog, that type of thing, get him the experience. And the female told us, hey, I don't know if he's inside or not. He broke in at one point in time. He was inside. I don't know if he's still there or not. So it ended up just being like a burglary search, if you will. I don't want to say low level by any stretch of imagination, but nothing heightened there that kind of made us go off, that making it a full SWAT call out. From there, the Canine Handler and I, as well with patrol, we go upstairs and we ultimately release the dog, and we start searching. Dog hits a room. He's searching. The handler's doing a directional. I'm his lethal. I'm hiding. Not hiding. I'm taking cover behind like a wall, if you will, just at the entrance to like a few of the bedrooms. Taking cover behind there, and he sends the dog into like a washroom. Dog comes back, starts rooting around the suspect's door. We didn't know where he was at or if he was even in. Starts smelling at the bottom of the door, and then he fires an AK through the door. Quite a few rounds go off. I could feel like the pressure pass. Ends up being like, I think it was 1.5 feet, 2 feet. It missed me. I see the wall right next to me, start blowing out. Keep shooting. The handler stands in front of me. I don't end up shooting back. I end up holding the handler's belt. He ends up grabbing the dog. He fires his rounds, and we just evac out of there. It was one of those was like within 4 seconds, 3 seconds type of thing. But very quick, he fired that AK-47. We didn't know it was an AK. We knew it was a high-powered rifle. I could feel that just passing. Yeah. Fires AK-47. We have to evac out. We kind of low crawl out a little bit. We end up holding the front door, pinning the front door because we don't want him getting out, harming anybody else. And then he comes out of his bedroom window and just starts cranking off more rounds. Ends up firing like hundreds of rounds during this event. Lindbergh ended up canceling flights because it flies right down over Bankers Hill into the airport. So flights were canceled, all of that stuff. We end up pinning him down. We obviously called the SWAT team in and things of that nature. He does ultimately surrender. But yeah, that was the second time Nero really missing death rate there for sure. Just I remember going to court, and I just, if the jury saw it, I'd be embarrassed. But just getting tears in my eyes, because fast forward, it would be a year later or so, 2 years later, we ended up testifying for attempt murder on a police officer and all that stuff, and just seeing those pictures, because I haven't seen inside the house since then. Yeah. Seeing the firearm, seeing him, and it was just constant thought. It's like, oh man, I thought I shelved this away. Yeah. And just say, hey, so this is where they had all the strings and all the, hey, this is where you were standing. This is where the bullet passed. It was 1.5 feet, and I'm like, oh my god, 1.5 feet, that type of thing.
Damn, that's dicey.
So just kind of taking that all in, which is a different experience. Yeah. Almost worse than the actual event.
Yeah. Do you know what his deal was?
I think he just broke in, crazy, got mad at his girlfriend, came out from Vegas, had a whole bunch of guns, put up a dresser.
So it was his girlfriend?
It was his girlfriend, okay. Ex-girlfriend, whatever their living situation was, I don't know. And he was just I'm going to take out every cop. Fortunately, no officer got hurt or anything like that. Just narrowly missed.
What kind of sentencing happens for him in a scenario like that?
It's California, so I think it was like 10 years, 12 years, and I'm sure good time served and that type of thing. Yeah. I thought it was going to be like this big lifelong sentence. Now
6 months of fucking community service,
probation. Yeah, I always joke, like, hey, your first crime's free in California.
Man. Well, so on that point, I mean, as a law enforcement officer, and have spent quite a few numbers of years there, at least, what you hear in the media, and I mean, I spent, 10 years in San Diego, or almost 12 actually, but like from a frustration standpoint, policing wise. Can you kind of talk to that a little bit about your guys' challenges of law enforcement and shit not being actually enforced, and the impacts of allowing people to steal $900 worth of shit and it's not a crime, and
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's definitely definitely kind of weighs heavy, because it's kind of like, what's the point? You know what I mean?
Especially if you're putting your fucking life on the line.
Right,
You know,
right.
I mean,
Fortunately, we are not as bad as Los Angeles. We still have good district attorneys in San Diego and stuff like that. But overall, however you feel about politics and however you feel about Newsom, that'll push that aside. But at the end of the day, California has very liberal policies as far as what's gonna qualify as a felony theft, misdemeanor theft, how much they can fight, how much they cannot. You're getting shops that are closing. You're getting shops that are just simply moving. Plus you have minimum wage. Plus you have the COVID stuff. It all just weighs in on it. It really is just a cog that moves within that system, and it's a direct influence on policing. So then, yes, I feel bad for these new guys, just to where it's what's the point?
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart when I hear the no force, no problems. Fortunately for our department, I don't hear that, but I'll train with other agencies and they'll say, hey, no force, no problems, no bites, no problems. To where it's like, yeah, if I see something, I go and enforce it, and maybe he drops the dope and I never find it, and he's not going to be arrested for this dope or this gun or whatever it might be, but I use force. Well, now I got an issue because I might be in internal affairs, or I might get talked to, or something to that effect. Yeah. If I just ignore it and keep driving, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So when I hear that, it's like, oh, that is not what policing should be, and that's where I hope that pendulum swings back. Yeah. Just for California's sake.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, it's got to be super frustrating. I guess going back to some of the dog stuff, have there been deployments that you've used a dog on where the outcome significantly shifted your training philosophy or how you did business? I mean, is there one that stands out that really changed things?
Yeah, 100%. This one, at the time, this was kind of just the new handler, old school. At the time, it was do not recall the dogs off of odor. You're going to make them weak. So then what ends up happening is when the dog gets interest and we recall back from a position of safety, which you should, and then maybe fortify that position or what have you, do suspect call outs or take it outside and know that he's in there, whatever you're going to do. At the time, it was just, hey, grab your dog up. So then now it's like, no, suspects shoot at us through doors with AK-47s. I don't need a handler bending over in front of a door to leash his dog. So that just further solidified the point. We will recall our dog from safety. Yeah. And then it expanded on, okay, let's recall him from safety, no problem. Okay, can we recall him from safety within a stack of operators? Can we recall him back where I have a gas mask on, plate carrier on, low light, no light, nods, stuff like that, and kind of up in the ante. And just what we spoke on, no growth in the comfort zone, just to where it's like, okay, the dog recalls from a position of safety, academy-wise. As soon as I see that, I want it done with handlers laying down, taking a knee, operators moving, tolerant of operator conduct, whatever it might be they'd be doing, the dog needs to come back. We just, a few years ago, we did the Riverside sheriff trials. I was a judge in that, and one of the exercises was locate the suspect. After that, the alert, as he's coming back, the suspect fires shots. Can your dog recall in that situation, or does he want to go back to the gunfire? Because oftentimes when they hear gunfire, they want to go back. So just having that solid recall definitely changed our training mindset for sure.
Yeah, and that's something, similarly, I did a pilot program doing, basically trying out a methodology of recalling a dog. So it was basically a combination of search and rescue and patrol, which people are like, well, you can't do that. But the National Wildlife Fish and Game was like, well, can we try? Because that's what we need. Right. And it was like, well, nobody's really done that before. And they're like, would you be willing to try? And I was like, well, fuck, I'll try it. So I did this pilot program, and that makes me think of kind of, the methodology that I used for that was, basically teaching a patrol dog to find people the same way that I would do point-to-point and quartering exercises with odor, but I would put people in barrels behind a fence line with holes drilled in it with a good wind coming off of it so that they would treat it like an inanimate odor first, and then used goat cages where they can't actually get to you, and have the recall so strong that just like, because the way that I would do especially explosive detection, but any type of detection work is using the clicker to mark the release from the final indicator and come back to me for reward. And that's, in hearing you talk about, recalling a dog while they're searching, that's how I would go about it. But that's how I went about it with this, which is, the highest reward value possible. This dog is like, fuck, there's the dude, I'm going to go nuke him. And you can get him to say, no, fuck that, and come back. And the methodology I used was using a bite wedge and basically having a full-on fucking bite session, basically like a 2-3 minute bite reward of tugging and pulling, and and giving him that kind of satiation and reward of that, and it actually worked. I mean, it was a dicey, tricky fucking thing, but it was like, these guys are in instances where they're hours from another patrol officer or any type of backup, then they're dealing with drug dealers, people running from the law, poachers. I mean, they're in national forest way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere. But, the reality is most of their job is, kids or elderly or special needs people getting lost, and you need to be able to find them but not fucking nuke them. But there are instances where they may end up with a drunk poacher and they need a dog that will fuck somebody up too, and that's a dicey thing. But it made me think of that, so I'm curious, how did you go about training the recall under duress that way? Yeah,
so essentially, I like the place command. Obviously, we can do it with behind a door or something to that effect, just with a sleeve, minimal equipment, that type of thing, and just small recalls that way with a long line. Obviously, no e-collar yet or anything like that. It doesn't work that way, but whether it be off a ball, off a wedge, like you said, off a sleeve, off a decoy that's way down range and the dog knows it's not even a possibility. Slick floor recalls, things of that nature, to where the dog's just slower and you're kind of really just slow rolling it. It doesn't have to be the old school way. Hey, let's put a 30-foot
clothesline them.
Yeah, let's clothesline them, and you're going to get your hands burned in the process. You're going to have to put gloves on. Then you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's a way, not the way. It would be, hey, let's do it with a ball. Yeah. Okay, let's do it with, Mike holding the ball, and he's going to start swinging the ball around a little bit more, increased drive, right? You have to up the stimulus, I'm sure. And then from there, it could be a sleeve, that type of recall, and then eventually getting on building searches, not a call off quite yet, where he's just coming back to me while the decoy's still there. This is just a simple find. He learns, I go to dad, I get the bite. Yeah. I go to dad, I get this other toy, I get this other, and obviously using clickers and markers and verbal markers, just to speed up the process with that dog communication, and he understands that.
Yeah, man, that's awesome to hear. It sounds like your guys' unit in particular have come a long way in your time there of really outthinking the dog and not just using fucking slap your dick on the counter and type of stuff, which is pretty awesome to hear.
Yeah, that's where Echelon K9 came in, just to where it was one of those things where it was just that. I think for a long time, every agency was just, hey, this is how we do it. And then now it's just kind of like people would call up and like, hey, we can't train you. We do it all in-house. Yeah. Hey, do you do e-collar problem solving? Hey, the handler's getting bit. Hey, he's not engaging, whatever it might be. I'm like, you know what? Let me open up a business with this and just kind of just having that aspect with it, with the problem solving, the behavioral modification stuff.
Yeah, that's great shit. And that's there in San Diego, I assume.
We're out in San Diego. I opened up at the perfect timing right before COVID.
Oh, no.
So it was Echelon K9. 2 months later, there was a thing called COVID. December, January, hey, we're getting sick. And then boom, there was a thing called COVID. So just took all my experience. Obviously, agencies still need to train, so trained at agencies, protection dogs and stuff like that. People come out to the house and train. They saw the movie Max. Yeah. Had to have a Belgian Malinois. And then, oh, my God, this dog needs training. Yeah. Not just a walk.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff. We'll definitely get into that here in a minute. A few other questions I had. Have there ever been instances where a dog and handler on a scene were actually a hindrance and got in the way?
Yeah, it just, you kind of float in between that. Hey, I want the dog barking so the suspect can hear the dog barking. But also, I need him quiet so that way the suspect can hear the warnings too. Because he's just going to say, I just thought that was a dog barking out. Versus, hey, I need the psychological deterrent, but I need him calm and capped. Can he flow in between and channel drives? But sometimes if it's not a dog call, it certainly escalates it. So then the handler has to know, hey, you know what? I'm going to subtract myself from this. This is just stirring the pot and I don't have enough. We always tell our handlers, what is he physically going to jail for? If you had to right now, does he need to be bit? Yeah, he's going to jail for a misdemeanor. Step back. You can have the dog be in the rear with the gear is what we say. They'll say dog up if they need you. However, you're just hindering. You don't need this barking whatever it might be, and the suspect's just focused on that and not actively listening to the officers.
Yeah.
You are a resource, not the sole resource.
Yeah. Have you guys had instances where the dogs have failed?
Oh yeah. I'd be a liar if I said, no, we're perfect. Some of the biggest things now I see, just younger handlers, newer handlers, making sure the dog has tone is a big thing. Getting the dog out on calls and legitimately going to calls, just agency-wide, California-wide, that'd be a big thing. It's one of those, hey, we're going to scrimmage. Okay, now, hey, here's the real game. You don't want your first incident to be, your first deployment to be like, man, sure wish I trained this week, or that type of thing.
Yeah.
So dogs fail. Yeah, absolutely. Dogs have problems. Just it comes down to sight pictures, training, that type of thing.
Yeah. I do have a Patreon question from one of our members, Darby Parrish. I'd like his take on handler teams utilizing social media. I get that it can be a liability, but it seems like also a great way to humanize the officers and for fundraising to supply teams with things they need to do their job as safe as possible, but isn't always funded by their department. Do you have a position? Do you guys have a policy for, if a handler and his dog have an Instagram or TikTok account or whatever where they're doing stupid shit on there? Like, do you guys have a policy? What do you think?
We do have a social media policy. I'm not a fan of bites on social media, just because that's like taking my gun out and I'd shoot it every single time. No. I have a flashlight on it. I sometimes use it, sometimes don't use it, whatever it might be. I don't want the public, the community, to think we take these dogs out to specifically bite people, when our purpose is to de-escalation. To de-escalate. So at the end of the day, I'm not against social media. Do they have it? I'm sure they do. But at the end of the day, as long as it's cleared through the department, I'd say you would be fine, because it does help. Hey, and that's how people get commercials. And oh my God, there's vests now. We can get vests for the dogs and stuff like that. So nothing. And we use social media. We actually do, but it's filtered.
Yeah. It's
not just bite, and all this aggression. When it's like, hey, that's not the case. You know what I mean? They do a lot more than just that. They're a locating tool.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of the bites, or I guess just utilizing them in that capacity, you've had, since you've been there, you've had dogs that have been lost on duty. When you kind of reflect back, if you don't mind kind of walking through those stories, and given your hindsight 2020, were there things where it's just kind of the nature of the job and it was that or an officer kind of thing, or were there less hard lessons learned with any of the instances where dogs actually lost their lives on the job?
As far as lost the lives on the job, we had a dog. He was shot and killed where the suspect was going with a gun towards officers. Ultimately, he releases the dog, ends up being an officer-involved shooting. He shoots the dog, and he starts pointing the gun at officers. Ends up being an officer-involved shooting. You're talking as far as dogs failing out in the field and not engaging?
Not even necessarily that, just instances where they end up, making the ultimate sacrifice. Were any of them, when reflected back on, like, this was a mistake we made, or no, like the dog saved the lives of our officers, and it was just the unfortunate nature of Police Canines?
The ones that are coming to mind, they're all from that. It's one of those things like the handler knows, like, hey, he's got a gun, or we're not saying he has a knife, he's going to stab the dog. It's one of those things like, hey, on one of them, a dog got stabbed pretty significantly, had 8 inches of his colon removed. He threw the knife. So then it's like, okay, he's unarmed now. He has it readily accessible, but he is far enough away from the knife. They impact him. They do a whole bunch of stuff with beanbag and 40 and all of that. The dog gets sent. He's still far away from the knife, produces a second knife when the dog's in midair, and then stabs him in the stomach. Yeah. So it's like, it's very unfortunate. The dog ended up living, a very successful dog, good friend of mine. The handler's a good friend of mine. Just didn't see that coming, with our police service dog that was shot and killed, kind of the same thing, where it's like, hey, he's walking away towards officers with a gun. Can we shoot him? Can we not? Whatever that aspect of it looked like, I wasn't there. Ultimately, the dog gets released, and then boom, it happens.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine up in Riverside, still a handler up there, I'm not going to say his name, but same thing. You had helicopters out, you had drones out, didn't know where this heinous violent felony suspect was at, and then none of the helicopters or drones could find this guy. The dog does. The dog goes on the bite, bites him, and then boom, shot and killed. So it's one of those things. I don't want to say it's a cost of doing business, but it's unfortunate. But they certainly save the lives of officers for sure.
Yeah. So with that, from a legality protocol within your department standpoint, in that situation where that exact story, I guess, when he pulls out a gun and starts shooting the dog, let's say he shoots and kills the dog like he did, at that point, if it stops there and he's just holding a gun and not pointing at you, you guys can't shoot him?
Correct.
That seems fucking crazy to me.
If you can articulate, hey, he's going to point the gun at me. He's looking at me. He sees me in a black and white, a marked uniform. How long does it take to bring up the gun? And you can articulate, that's fine. But your answer is not going to be, I specifically shot him because he shot my dog.
Really?
There will be other mitigating circumstances that say, hey, you know what? He did shoot the dog. He pointed the gun at me. He did X, Y, and Z. That's totally different. I'm talking just his back is turned. He specifically shot the dog and then quickly discarded the weapon. An officer's response is not going to be, I shot him because he shot my dog.
That's wild.
Yeah.
To me, I guess.
Yeah.
So same thing with, I guess in that same environment or same scenario, his back is turned. He's got a knife, he's stabbing the dog, or he has a belt and he's choking the dog. He's sitting there choking the life out of the dog. You can't shoot him.
Correct.
That's fucking wild to me.
Correct. And that's where I was kind of saying just when you recall the dog, that's one thing. Okay, outing the dog. When was the last time most agencies outed your dog in defense? Not just prey. The suspect stands still, the paragraph that you hear, a one-word out, one-word recall. He gets back to you. He's about to shoot the dog. Can you do that with gunfire? Can you do that when he's actually actively getting hit, stabbed, whatever it might be? Because that's the last-ditch effort. It's not going to be, oh, hey, you know what, he's doing this to the dog. Boom. We're going to have to rectify it. Is it going to be the taser, the 40, the beanbag, gas, whatever it might be, diversionary devices? We're going to have to do things to mitigate that, but it's not going to be, hey, he's stabbing my dog, shoot him. Not going to happen.
So is that a policy that's directed by the police department? Is that a state government directive?
State government, I mean, and policy is going to follow that. Sometimes, obviously, policy is often stronger than the laws themselves. It's just one of those things. A dog is an expendable force option. He's a use of force tool.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some states where that's not the case.
Right.
You know, and it varies, and maybe even municipality to municipality within a state. I don't know. I know that, you know, there are some places where doing anything to a police canine is legally considered the same as doing it to a human officer. But it's, to me, the weird thing about California, that's one of those weird, almost like woke Bermuda Triangle swirls of, like, they kind of butt heads. It's like they're so, you know, we don't want to fucking hurt felons and criminals,
right? But
they're also pretty fucking pro animal, and so, like, that's a weird
right
trumping of ideologies of saying, like, yeah, if a suspect, well, that's another thing that I want to, it seems like semantics to me, is the term suspect. We'll get to that in a second, but that you would allow a guy to choke your fucking dog to death and not be able to shoot him while he's doing that.
Yeah.
So I guess hypothetically, and I know it depends on circumstances, but I guess generally speaking, would you try to tase the guy if that's the case? Yeah.
From there, it's just you can articulate the use of force. He defeats this tool. Now we're back to, you know, a dead dog and the same suspect behavior that we had. So even while he's doing that, we're not going to stand and watch. We'll do something about it, and that's where, like I was saying, the 40s, the beanbags, the tasing, trying to out and recall the dog back, pressing up, moving up, shields, whatever it might be. We have to stop that behavior for sure and save the dog's life, but. Yeah. It won't be through the use of lethal force, or it shouldn't be used lethal force. Have
you tased, or have any of your guys tased somebody while the dog is on?
Yes. It's not a policy, but our general guideline is we don't tase while the dog's on the bite, at least for the X26 taser. That's 1,200 to 2,500 volts. And that's going right to the dog's mouth. That's more than any e-call or anything like that. God forbid you... different tasers or whatever people are using. So we typically don't tase if the dog is on the bite. However, there are agencies that do and don't have any problems with that. Yeah. For us, it's just not something we're going to go down to where dogs...
Unless you had to. Unless
we absolutely had to. Yeah. It's not going to be a thing to where, hey, tase him while the dog's on the bite. Yeah.
This may seem like a dumb question, but just out of curiosity, does that further distribute / diminish the amount of voltage if there's 80 more pounds of flesh attached? Like, if there were 5 people interlocking arms and you tased one of them, is it going to be the same amount for all of them?
Same amount.
It's not going to dissipate some of it because there's more people?
No, I'm pretty sure it's the same amount.
Yeah, like it would still completely fuck all 5 of the people up.
Yeah, because they'll do where you do hold hands, and the person at the end
sounds like a hazing ritual.
Yeah, her person at the end feels it, even though this person got it.
Yeah, all the new guys fucking hold hands.
Yeah,
that's funny. The suspect thing, it seems weird to me. Like when and you hear it, like a lot of times police officers, when they're explaining something that happened, like they're so fucking formal, like overly formal, but they'll be like, oh, the suspect raised his gun and pointed it at me. It's like, at that point, how is he still a suspect if he's pointing a gun at you? Like, he's not suspected at pointing a gun at you. He is pointing a gun at you.
I think with that term, because I think what is East Coast perpetrator, like you'll never hear that on a West Coast officer. Like, oh, we got the perp. We got It's not like that. I think suspect is just in general nature. The suspect described as boom. Yeah. Hey, the suspect. So I mean, just general reporting. Yeah. So it just referring to them as the suspect.
Yeah. I always found that as odd.
That's funny.
In terms of future of canine training, any advancements in the field of canine training specifically and utilization? Do you see any big advancements or any things that are likely to change significantly in the future?
I could see e-collar. E-collar's advanced for sure. Nobody wants to be biting the nun holding 2 orphan babies on the 5 o'clock news. I mean, you're going to have a legitimate, reliable recall. And I'm not talking the certifications tomorrow. Let's train. I'm talking
like in practice.
Yeah, no, it needs to, and we want to adhere to our standards with that. We want a legitimate, reliable recall. So I could foresee the dog's not on the collar. I'm okay with like, hey, you know what? It's going to be a year or 2 before he's on it. But at some point, you're going to be on the e-collar. It's not going to be something like, hey, he's never going to be put on the collar. I could see agencies needing that way. Yeah. You're going to need multiple ways of taking the dog off strong. Or just removing the dog from the bite, whether it's left hand, right hand, with the leash, out stick, verbal out, whatever it might be. Yeah. Gone are the days of I just go up to this and I just start choking them off. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. In terms of like big tech, do you see a potential that the utilization of police canines becomes obsolete with drones, robots, things of that nature, or do you see it sticking around for a long time?
Not just because I'm in the business and made my life about this. I see them sticking around. Just electronics fail. You have robots and drones that can't go upstairs or get caught up on clothes or carpet or what have you. The dog does not. So then now I have a dog with a sense for sure. Senses that are hundreds times better than us, right? So I don't see them going away. I could see them, hey, you know what, we can put certain things on them, whether it be cameras or walkie-talkies and laser now and stuff like that. Why not advance this, already good product versus delete this product, and then now we're going to use a robot that requires this many batteries, this much charging, and all of the other stuff.
Yeah. In terms of the cloning versus difficulty in finding dogs, have you guys messed with any cloning projects?
No, but I smile and laugh. I was up at LAPD taking a decoy course, and I think it was, I don't even know, I think it was FBI or something like that. They were taking the decoy course, and they had a dog there that was cloned. Yeah. I just thought...
Is it worth a shit?
Yeah, it was the best dog in the class.
Really?
Yeah, he was the best dog in the class. And it was just like, oh yeah, and they called him Ghost, I think it was.
Yeah, that's funny.
So...
Well, I mean, I don't know about you. I can say for me, like when I think back to when I the very first introduction to importing dogs in the mid 2000s. Back then the Holland buy trips or Netherlands buy trips, they don't like you calling it Holland, but like you could find 20 just fucking bangers in a few days for a few $1,000s, fly them all back. All of them were fucking PH1s or close to it, and pretty fucking turnkey, just amazing fucking dogs.
Yes. And
now, like, it's about the exact opposite of that. It's like they're either 9 months old and you're going to need to put 2 years into them, or they're 4 with 3 broken teeth and won't go in a fucking crate and 3 or 4 other quirks that are a big enough pain in the ass to make me not want to fucking select them. Do you run into that same thing?
100%. Yeah. 100%, to where it was like... just having to shuffle vendors and check this vendor, check that, same thing. To where the dogs are getting younger. And like I said, we had an 8-week academy. This past one was 12 weeks. These dogs need a lot of training. They've never been told to sit. They've only had a sleeve, and that was it. Hopefully the environmentals are good. We tested that. But at the end of the day, they just need so much training. And it's not you're looking down the list, PH1, 2.5, 3 was the average. It's like, man, that's a lot of dog, that Dutch Shepherd. Now it's like, it is typically softer, younger dogs, maybe just put on a sleeve and turned around and sold for sure. I couldn't agree with that more.
I mean, to me, the prospect of cloning is, I hate the fact that that's the case, but even just the Netherlands as an example, back when I first got into dogs, the number of KNPV sport clubs, there was like, I think close to 1,000, maybe it was 500. I don't know. There was 4 or 5 times as many clubs then as there are now, and it's way harder to find, dogs that are suitable. And to me, like, cloning is maybe our industry's last ditch, effort at being able to sustain itself. Because I think when you look at, post 9/11, and I've bitched about this, ad nauseum for, a number of years, but, September 12th till present day, you've got a pond, with only so many dogs in it. You've got a culture that average age of the guy that does that for a living has gotten older and older and older over the last 20 plus years. The people, the kids, the newer generations of kids that don't want to train dogs, that don't want to pick up shit, that, they'd rather fucking hang out on TikTok and be an influencer, like they don't want to fucking train dogs, and especially in Europe in the wintertime and doing that. The same way with plumbing and carpentry, and it's hard to find people that are willing to do shit that's physically demanding or difficult. Coupled with the United States in particular, but a lot of other countries following our lead of importing a shitload of dogs, overfishing this pond. And there's one critical element there that I don't think a lot of people have thought of or realized, which is you're removing all of these consummate textbook genetic examples from the gene pool, and you're not breeding them. In fact, you're making policies saying you're not allowed to breed them, and they have to be neutered before you can retire them. And so, to me, it's akin to saying, if you're a special operations guy, a first responder in a SWAT or a high value, high danger job, and we're going to take all those guys and we're going to say you can't have children, and we're going to give you all vasectomies, and so you can't reproduce. Like, where is our country going to be in 2 generations? About where we're at now, from the looks of it, honestly. But that's essentially what we've done as an industry, is overfished, undersupplied, and then cut out the ability to procreate with so many of these phenomenal dogs being bought and never being allowed to be bred. And it's like, you're seeing that now, the consequences of all of those factors kind of swirling around over the last couple of decades. And it's fucking alarming, because it's so fucking difficult to find dogs that have all the tools for the job. But so I guess to that point, your experience with the cloning was a good one. Yeah. Is that something that you would explore as a department and as a business owner, or?
Probably more so as a business owner. I think as a department, it's okay, who's going to train it? Who's going to watch it? Who's going to vet them all the way up until 18 months? Versus like, hey, you had, full-time training staff. We're going to, clone or breed even 10, 15 dogs, puppies, 3 of them that don't work out. The ones that don't work out, we're going to put them, here or there, whatever it might be. That's another thing. And another aspect to look at is when you do clone them, okay, you have a puppy who's going to watch this dog for 2 years and train this dog, giving him the proper foundation. Yeah. Are they going to be in canine long enough? You come all that staffing stuff, So I don't foresee us as a department doing any of that. Yeah. But yeah,
as an industry, something has to be figured out, because if it continues to go the way it's going, I don't think there's going to be enough supply for canine departments to exist, because to me at least, more and more I see, because I know a lot of guys all over the country and have a pretty decent finger on the pulse of videos being sent and seeing a lot of kind of real world applications. And like, again, if I look at how many dogs are not engaging or failing or, being scared off of a bite or just not even fucking, like they're running around like, hey, where are we going?
Yep.
I'm just like, holy shit, how many are there, how can there be this many dogs out there that are that fucking, like lied on your resume, kind of fucking memes.
Yeah. You almost rather just, even just any Europeans, just breed the dogs, make sure they have, sound qualities, and then we'll buy them from there.
Yeah.
At least we know the mom, the dad, the lineage, like these are legit police dogs or these are legit working dogs. They don't have to be trained up in this way and taking the time. Just give us the quality dog. Yeah. I could see it getting to that point where dogs are just now just raw genetics. Dogs are getting younger, and it's going to be like, hey, you know what? You're going to have a head trainer. It's going to be a 10-month process, a 1.5-year process before this dog's ever even ready for some type of an academy. Yeah. But just more training is going to have to be. These academies are getting longer. Yeah. 10 years from now, 15 years now, where are you buying these dogs? With all the wars, all these people buying the dogs, that type of thing.
Yeah. How has being a canine handler impacted you from a personal life standpoint? Do you have pets of your own, personal dogs of your own? Are they all pointy-eared fucking ass eaters?
No, I would love to tell you yes. I have, my kids have, I'm going to clarify that. My kids have a 15-pound bougie Havanese.
Well, my youngest daughter has a fucking golden doodle, so I'm right there with you.
Little Havanese. He's funny because they'll train him. He does the flips, walks on the back legs. He's laser trained.
That's funny.
He does the whole, he legitimately does the whole thing. He'll search for them in the house and he can find them and do the whole alerting thing. Yeah. So it's funny to see. So he has like some genetic traits there. We've put him on a rag and he can start biting the rag and stuff like that. He totally gets it. It's funny, but
that's awesome.
Yeah. I'd love to tell you, hey, it's a big bad Dutch Shepherd out back, but it's just a police dog. Yeah. And then the other one's the 11-pounder.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite breed?
I do like Malinois. My heart's got to go to the Malinois, Dutch Shepherd for sure.
If you couldn't have one of them, but any breed outside of the traditional police canine working variety, what would it be?
Oh man, is it the Anatolian Shepherd dog, like the Kangal? Yeah. And that I like that. Just they can roam, no fence, because we have goats and we have all that stuff at the training facility. Yeah. The goats, the chickens, the rabbits. So just to have a dog that just kind of wanders and just watches the dog training, goes back up and lays on the driveway and then doesn't leave the yard, that type of thing. Yeah. I'd say something like that. Yeah,
that's cool. Are there any big upcoming new projects or initiatives or anything like that that's exciting that's coming to your department that you can share, or is it just kind of business as usual?
Business as usual. I got a few things in the works for Echelon. I'll release sometime this year, early next year. And then, as far as the department's just business as usual. I'm just trying to put that good product out there. Yeah.
In terms of Echelon, of where you see it and you and your involvement in it in the future, like what all do you guys do now and kind of what do you foresee in the future?
Yeah, so we do all types of training. We have a Searching with Canine class, e-collar, scenario-based detection courses, train the trainer, management classes, really just anything dog training. I also do maintenance training for Riverside Sheriff, just different agencies, whether it be monthly or quarterly, whatever it might be. I love doing the classes. I love just, traveling. We go all over the United States. People have me out and, hey, we need e-collar, or hey, we need vehicle hot stops, or we need building searches or SWAT or whatever it might be. Yeah. So I thoroughly enjoy that. Right now, obviously, I'm busy with the full-time job, so I don't do canine academies. But for sure, I'd like to, obviously, when I retire, I'll jump into the canine academies. Yeah. But still doing all the training. I kind of a weekend thing. I'll take the family out and we'll go see different places and do classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Are there any, from a tactics standpoint, any policies, fad or otherwise, that you see anywhere in the country that are cringy?
So policy-wise, in regard to canine, that are cringy,
or like just horribly fucking misguided, that you disagree with.
Line of sight deployments. When I see a suspect and he has an unconventional weapon, some agencies, that's not a dog deployment, which is fine. But then now you're relying on a 40 and a beanbag and that's it. Sometimes it might need to be a dog. So then if he's got that unconventional weapon is what I'm saying, a 2x4 or a pipe, it might be, hey, we're too far for the taser to work. and we've already impacted him with the beanbag shotgun and nothing happened. Okay, we're going to have to go hands-on, or we're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. That might be a dog deployment. He's not dropping the 2x4 or bat or whatever it might be.
So you're saying there are departments that you've seen that in that scenario, they won't deploy the dog?
They will not deploy the dog if they know where the suspect's at. It's over.
Really?
He's in a vehicle and he's not coming out, SWAT.
Yeah.
Which is fine. You might be able to use gas and stuff like that. But then the next thing, it's like, hey, the gas was ineffective. This was ineffective. And I'm saying once 10 things are ineffective, is the dog going to be sent? No.
Yeah.
So have an officer go and check and peek his head in on the tinted windows.
Is a muzzle strike ever an authorized use of force?
No, we're not going to put a muzzle dog. You're saying a muzzle dog on a suspect?
Like a primary or a secondary weapon of muzzle striking somebody.
No, that would be that would fall under like lethal force or life-threatening behavior, that type of thing. No pistol whipping.
So, well, I mean, so if let's say if a suspect has a knife, right? Now I'm using the word suspect. Check me out.
Yeah.
He's not suspected anymore. If a motherfucker has a knife and he's coming at you, you're just going to shoot him. Like you wouldn't.
Correct. Yeah, you also have to just kind of weigh the checks and balances. He runs at us with a knife. He's this close. He's lethal. That would be a lethal force situation. If we are up close, you could do anything you wanted to if you can articulate. That's how it is.
Okay.
So if you and I are going hand to hand and you take my pen out of my pocket and you're about to stab me in the eye, and I can articulate anything I want from there up to including lethal force. Yeah. So then if it's the, you use the butt end of this or whatever it might be, I can poke him in the eye or I can shoot him. You just have to articulate it.
So that in that scenario, because it's something in the military we use a lot, or in scenarios where you're clearing a target, and let's say there's a non-English speaking, no interpreter, unarmed but non-compliant guy that won't fucking listen, or you can't communicate. Again, he doesn't have a weapon, but won't fucking but is being resistant. Then we'll muzzle strike them, instead of shooting them. Of course, we're not carrying tasers, we're not carrying beanbags, we're not carrying mace. And so in those instances, we will muzzle strike guys, and it's a pretty effective means of neutralizing it. But in police policy, that would be considered a lethal force.
Not lethal force. It would just be, hey, what was his behavior? There's other things that we would do. It wouldn't be the muzzle strike. It would be the armbar takedown, taser, OC, ass, baton, something to that effect.
I guess, so walking through a hypothetical, if a guy is armed with a knife or a gun, isn't pointing it at you, isn't coming at you, you don't have a dog, and you've tried beanbags, mace, taser, everything, and nothing has worked. At that point, like, how would you approach it?
Yeah, I mean, there's gas options, diversionary devices. Are you going to approach on them with a Bearcat mobile cover with a car with shield over the top of the windshield, that type of thing?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not to approach, and then I'm hoping maybe some agency like, hey, at this point we've exhausted all measures, we will use the dog. But there are some that just, if we know where the suspect's at, it's 100% no dog sent.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, hey, we're just have to get close enough to tase him with as much armor as we can.
Yeah. Do you guys ever fuck with any of the weird like net guns or any of those like clotheslining fucking devices, or like the two balls on a string that fucking spin? And
no, nothing like that. No, we don't have any of that.
Is that all typically like crowd control shit where they're messing with that kind of stuff?
So I mean, we're very stringent, obviously, in California with crowd control, dispersal orders, and things of that nature. What you can and can't use. Is it a protest? Is it unlawful assembly, or whatever it might be? Like no chemical agents, no kinetic energy weapons, that type of thing. It's very strict, but we don't have any fancy tools like that. Nothing like that.
Because that shit's kind of fun and exciting. I don't know who's using them, but I need to get somebody on here that has shot a fucking net gun at somebody before. Yeah,
or they have one with the Pursuit where it's, I don't know what it shoots out. It shoots something that just drops the car, and the car just stops.
Oh, no shit.
They got to get like 2 feet from the bumper. They shoot out whatever they need to shoot out, a dart or whatever it is. It just ruins the whole car, and then boom.
Really?
Now the suspect's just sitting in traffic.
Is it like a mini EMP, like it fucks with the ECU, or it,
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like a little dart that goes in and just kind of messes it all up.
Fries the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. Have you guys had any issues with any of the protests of, I guess, in particular here in the last few months, any of the Palestine stuff? Have you guys run into any issues with that kind of shit?
It's San Diego. We have all of that. Fortunately for Canine, we don't have anything to do with crowd management.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have nothing. We don't go out there with dogs. We don't do any of that. So that is a fortunate thing for Canine. But yeah, there you have the BLM riots. We had those. Yeah, you had the pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, whatever side. But yeah, protesting is a common thing.
And is that SDPD policy that dogs will never be used in crowd control environments?
Yeah, we're not
Never
going to.
doing it.
Yeah, I don't. Just me personally, I don't like the look.
Yeah.
There's no place for it. It's already chaotic,
Yeah.
rapid, fluid, dynamic. We don't need a dog there. And who you biting? Are you going across the line? It doesn't look good.
Yeah. So I remember the Ferguson riots years ago. We ended up getting a dog on the Warrior Dog side, a dog that had to be retired after spending like, I want to say 2.5 days straight. He bit like 54 people in 2.5 days, and like it just fucked him up, and they had to retire him. Because he was kind of out of his mind after that. But agreed, like in the grand scheme of things, there's the look is a little dicey, and yeah, I think it's one of those things where it probably just gets in the way more than it is effective with all the other things that they have to use for crowd control.
Exactly.
Politically within the department. Do politics play any role, not from a policy standpoint, but do you guys talk about politics amongst each other? Like, do you guys get into that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We got our canine office, and we could just kind of shoot the breeze and just say, hey, the Trump-Biden conversations, all of that, just normal everyday talk.
Did you say within the police department that it's predominantly conservative, or are there a lot of what you would consider liberals within the police department?
I'd say, just traveling up and down California, most police agencies are conservative.
Yeah. And the officers themselves personally are more on that side.
Yeah, just conservative, just very pro-law, pro-law and order, the discipline, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Because you see the guts of things. People are not calling you saying, hey, can you come to my house? I want to tell you you did a good job. I got a steak on the grill,
Yeah.
You're going to, bad people's houses. You're searching for bad. So it's just one of those things, just the constant seeing of that. You could see like, hey, this is what lawlessness looks like.
Yeah.
So then I think people kind of just gravitate more towards just being a little bit more conservative.
Yeah. I mean, my hat's off to all you guys. I know, that job is tough. I don't think that I could do it. At least effectively. I think I would be one of those jaded, cynical guys that take shit personally, probably, and probably not make a good police officer. Maybe, being a little older now, maybe I would be better at it. But, just like the thought of, most of the time you're dealing with people on one of the worst days of their lives, or they're in a shitty mood, like they're in a life situation scenario that's fucking terrible, and they're pissed or depressed or both. How do you guys, I guess, deal with that, rationalize it, prepare for it over the long haul of constantly dealing with that?
That is certainly the hard part in the law enforcement community. Is just like the mental health aspect of it. Like just every single day, okay, you go to a SIDS call, sudden infant death syndrome. Okay, then the next day or next hour, it could be, this guy just beat his wife and put her in the hospital, and then the 2 kids are sitting there, and the dad's going to jail, mom's going to the hospital. What do you do with the 2 kids? And the next thing you know, it's a canine search, or it's going to be this or that. So it's definitely a lot of hats are worn with law enforcement, and understand just people are people, and just kind of take it in stride for sure.
Is there a worst call that you've been on?
I'm going to go, just because I got 2 daughters now, at the time, the call that I went to, I didn't have my daughters, but just obviously just family and stuff like that. I would say SIDS calls are definitely tough.
Yeah.
Because you try to empathize, you try to sympathize, you try to do both, but saying, hey, I feel your pain and this and that, and it's like, you don't. You can certainly, do what you need to help them, but it's very hard to say, hey, your son, your daughter, your son mostly is, hey, he died of SIDS, and they're in the living room. They're just not even hearing a word you're saying. Those are probably tougher.
Have you been on a lot of those?
Just a couple. Fortunately, just a couple of those. I think just 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Try to block those out for sure.
Yeah. And it's just one of those, it's actual SIDS and not an abuse problem.
Yeah, not an abuse. It was just happened to be, whatever it might be, soft mattress, suffocated, that type of thing. Is sometimes thinking of where the face imprint, he just, fell asleep straight into the mattress.
Yeah.
Mom doing her mom thing comes in and just, hey, I got to turn the baby, and then boom, He's dead.
Yeah.
And then you're just doing CPR on, a dead baby just to do it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things like he's cold to the touch and he's gone.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah. So, but then then the next call could just be my dog is barking. Or this next door neighbor's dog's barking, or this noise call, or this parking call, or the pursuit of a lifetime. So, I mean, it's definitely takes emotional toll for sure.
Yeah. Is there a most ridiculous reason you've been called? Like they won't give me my fucking large fry at McDonald's, any dumb shit like that?
We get some of those. I'm going to say hedges.
Hedges?
I remember, hey, my neighbor's not, he kind of tried to turn it into like he threatened me, so then we had to show up.
Yeah.
But then you get there, the long, grand scheme of things was, hey, the hedges aren't trimmed per HOA height. And he had the shit. What am I doing right now?
Oh, man.
I remember that call. My buddy and I, my partner, were just looking at each other like,
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, just because of the way he has the hedges. He's holding these hedges in my hand. He's in his hand. He's doing this. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, that's fucking funny. For Echelon K9, where can other departments or people reach you, find you online, etc.?
Yeah, I have Instagram. I hate Instagram. I hate social media. I'm not, but my wife always says, "Hey, it's a commercial. You got to do it." So Echelon K9 is the Instagram. EchelonK9.com for websites. Like I said, we could do any class, any type of class. They can just simply email me from there and say, "Hey, we're looking at hosting this." Travel. Like I said, I travel the country up and down. Good thing with us is all of our trainers, all of our decoys, everybody is a law enforcement or military canine handler. So you're getting actual canine handler experience. People with shootings, live bites, things of that nature that have kind of been there and done that, which is, I think it's important, especially nowadays with the assembly bills and all of that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share that's worth sharing that the viewers / listeners may enjoy? To any new handlers out there, I would say, just train your dog some way, somehow. You're just, you might go into the canine office and hang out and say, "Hey, my dog's so bitching," but he may not feel that way because he's just sitting in the back. Licking himself. So I would do some type of, if you don't have your trainer present and you need to do some type of training, do toy directionals, hand directionals, laser work, place board. Train the dog. Just because he knows how to down or knows how to sit by himself, train him something different, and you teach yourself that. Hey, I don't know how to do the place command. Find out. Don't make excuses. Make the adjustments. Find out how to do the place command. Teach him. Yeah. If it's, hey, he doesn't know my hand directionals. And I always laugh when they do a right directional and the dog banks left or something. Okay, teach him those hand directionals and figure out a way to do it. Once he knows it, kind of up the ante from there. So just get out and train your dog and kind of just make sure you're doing those small things, because when the big one happens, they're going to look at canine. You're the last option more than likely before you have to shoot somebody. Yeah. Amen. Well, man, I appreciate you coming and sharing your story. It's always an absolute pleasure for me to be able to, hear canine handlers and law enforcement officers kind of walking through their career and sharing stories that are so instrumental to our society functioning properly. And I love to be able to hear it. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. I do have a gift for you here. A coin in reference to yours, which I appreciate, and then
thank you.
The black box is that's actually my signature buckle. But
thank you.
Yeah, for coming on the show. That's I'm stepping over my own dick trying to say thank you. Thank you to John Johnston and Champion Choice Silver. John for donating the buckles, and Champion Choice Silver for making them. Hopefully at some point you'll have shit kickers on and you can wear that to some function in San Diego and either post or send us a picture of it, because we love seeing guys out in the wild wearing the buckles. So
yeah, a few rodeos I'll go to and I'll put on.
Awesome. Well, you're in the right area for it, right? To you guys listening, I appreciate you joining in and listening show after show. If you didn't do what you guys do for us, we wouldn't be able to bring you impactful shows, interesting shows, and being able to hear stories from all of our law enforcement professionals, military professionals, and just people that have made a difference in our society. So thank you for the support. We appreciate it. If you didn't enjoy it, you can go ahead and choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.